This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Private Zone challenged here by Matru and Mashawish. Mashawish on the outside and Matru. Those two are right together. Totalist is putting in a big late run, and Red Vine is splitting horses. The four of them come down to the line. Look like Totalist got there. Totalist with a big late run to win the Cigar Mile. And they're stacked across with Lewis Bay out in the middle of the track. Lewis Bay way wide, but now in front. Then it's Thrill, followed by Disco Rose and Lost Raven and Floridora. They pass the 16th pole, and Lewis Bay has the lead as they come for the finish in the Demoiselle.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Promises fulfilled, taken on by Engage. 7 trumpets is done on the inside. Firenze Fire is closing in, and so too still having fun on the far outside. But Promises Fulfilled is still there close to home. Promises Fulfilled is going to win the Allen Jerkins by a length and a half.
And here is Catholic Boy now to take over the lead. Catholic Boy in front as they pass the 3/16 pole. Catholic Boy with a 3-length lead. Then Avery Island and Vouch and Tap Rap Strike at Alcatab. But it's Catholic Boy, and he may have grown up some today. Catholic Boy wins the Remsen under Manny Franco.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, welcoming you to the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum, and it is all presented by our friends at TwinSpires right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. As always, you are listening to the program nationwide on Sirius 162, XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, and available anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Well, the focus of the racing world today is on Aqueduct. Aqueduct preparing or going through their final meet. So much history has been made at Aqueduct over the years, and today we see more history with the Remsen and the Cigar Mile. The Remsen, not noted as a prominent Kentucky Derby prep race. It's been since Thunder Gulch won the Remsen and then went on and took the Kentucky Derby to find a horse that even competed in the race to wear the roses on the first Saturday in May. Maybe this year is the year that streak is broken, or I should say next year on the first Saturday in May. But referring to this year's Remsen, this afternoon's Remsen, because this is a high-quality, high-caliber group of 2-year-olds. And they're going to have, after today's Remsen, they'll have that 1 1/8 foundation under their belt, which I think is a big deal moving into their 3-year-old campaigns. But you look at the field, a well-balanced field in the Remsen today, and the quality, at least based on what those horses' expectations are at this point in their career, and even going back to as a yearling, you look at what happened in the sales ring. Paladin, number 2 in the Remsen today, son of Gunrunner, out of a Tappet mare, a $1.9 million yearling purchase at Fasig-Tipton, Saratoga last year. Highly regarded. Chad Brown, the trainer, Flavian Pratt, the jockey. Hall of Fame connections, if you will. And if that's not good enough for you, you go, Baron, that's nice, $1.9 million. That's one heck of a horse right there, at least expected to be one heck of a horse. How about number 6, Courting? A $5 million purchase at the Keeneland September sale last year. Son of Curlin, out of the brilliant Cavorting. Todd Pletcher, the trainer. John Velasquez, the jockey. More Hall of Fame connections. Courting looked really good, winning last time out in his second career start. He'll get a rematch with Grittiness, who he beat in that race. He gets a rematch with Igniter, who beat him in his debut. And then he faces Paladin. Can you ask for any more than that? And what about, okay, so those are the 2 stars in terms of expectations, what their sale price was as a yearling. And that, we know, that doesn't guarantee success, as a lot of times it's the opposite. How many $1 million plus yearlings don't live up to their early hype. We've seen several over the years that don't even make it to the races. Don't even win a race. Maybe they just break their maiden. They don't become what we thought they could be early on. And that's what makes this game, this sport, this industry so challenging. But believe me, Courting and Paladin look like they're runners. How about Renegade? Renegade and Paladin came down to the line together in their most recent race. That was on October 17th at Aqueduct. Renegade had a head in front of Paladin at the wire, but was disqualified and placed second. So Paladin gets the victory that day, which means Renegade still looking for that first career win, but the son of Into Mischief sold for $975,000 at Keeneland September last year. Todd Pletcher, Errad Ortiz Jr. Again, high-profile connections involved with Renegade. Balboa, who's going to break just to the outside of Renegade in that Remsen today, is an $875,000 yearling purchase. The horse to his outside, Talkin', for Danny Gargan, a $600,000 yearling purchase. You see where I'm going with this? The Remsen is really high quality today. Maybe more so than we've seen in recent years. At least in terms of expectations and where we hope to see these horses when the calendar turns to 2026. I mentioned Grittiness. He sold for $575,000. Even I Did, who was trained by Mike Maker. I'll tell you more about Mike in a second. He's going to join me at 8:15 Eastern. I Did, sold for $300,000. And after the numbers I just rattled off, that sounds pretty cheap. But $300K is a lot of money. And he's the son of Curlin. He's 12-1 on the morning line. Gets Joel Rosario for Mike Maker. So a lot of ways that you can go in here. A well-balanced group. And now it's time to start proving, okay, looking ahead to next year and the road to the Kentucky Derby, I'm one of those horses. You better put a circle around my name. I'm one of the ones you better keep an eye on as the waters continue to get deeper and things ramp up in the coming months moving toward the first Saturday in May. That's what the Remsen is all about today. Prove it. Prove that you're worthy of that big sales price. And wouldn't it be something if a horse like, day one starter for Shug McGahee were to jump up and win that race today? They only paid $160,000 for him. Chump change, right? No. Absolutely not. But in terms of what we're looking at here, it is. How about Probably Dreaming? Appropriately named, especially when you look at what he's up against today. Probably Dreaming sold for $37,000 at Keeneland September. He's won 3 out of 4. He's earned $178K. What a return on investment there, huh? Already. Makes his 5th career start today, breaks from the outside. His only career defeat came in the Nashua last time out where he was second. $37,000. It speaks to my point that you don't have to spend millions of dollars on horses at auction to get a really good one in your barn. And Probably Dreaming, although this is a massive class test for him, he looks like he's pretty good. He's dominated the competition at Laurel and Delaware. Comes to Aqueduct for the Nashua. He's bet down to a short price and finishes second, beaten 3.5 lengths. Nothing wrong with that. Now, again, today is a stiffer test. But for $37,000, take your shot. Yeah, I love this Remsen today. I think that you're going to hear more from many of these horses, not just the 2 big names I mentioned, Paladin and Courting. I think you're going to hear more from many of these horses as we move into 2026 in that road to the Kentucky Derby. I think there are several players in this race here this afternoon. I mentioned Mike Maker. He is going to join me coming up in just a few minutes, right around 8:15 Eastern, Mike has I did in the Remsen. He's also represented in the Cigar Mile. And that's not, his work is not done there. He has a horse in the H. Allen Jerkins handicap at Gulfstream Park, the 2-mile turf test. And then tonight, he's going to saddle Varev in the Boone County Stakes at Turfway Park. So Mike's a busy man today. I appreciate the time he's going to give us here in just a few minutes. He'll cover a lot of ground for us. Richard Migliore, the MIG, who is part of the NYRA Fox Sports broadcast team on television. He's going to be with me at 9 o'clock Eastern to talk more about the Remsen, more about the Cigar Mile. He was part of a nice feature on the Cigar Mile that NYRA put out on social media, talking about the history of that race and some of the really tremendous racehorses that have come through, not just Aqueduct, but through the Cigar Mile. We'll talk to Mig about that coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern. 9:20, you're going to hear from FTBOA CEO Lonny Powell. If you recall, 2 weeks ago, Damon Thayer appeared on this program and talked about the fight against decoupling in Florida. And during that conversation 2 weeks ago, Damon mentioned that the industry, the breeding industry in Florida last year was caught flat-footed, asleep at the wheel, and not doing its job in Tallahassee. Well, the folks with the FTBOA took exception to those comments. Said, no, that's not true. Going so far as to have Valerie Daly, who is the president of the FTBOA, send a press release disputing those comments by Damon Thayer and stating their case. Well, Lonny Powell is going to join me at 9:20 to share their thoughts on their position and why they felt that those comments that Damon made 2 weeks ago were unfair. Damon and Lonny both going to be at the University of Arizona Symposium on Racing this week. Makes me wonder if there's going to be a steel cage set up out there for the two. That actually might be actually highly entertaining. But you'll hear from Lonny, and he'll state his case coming up at 9:20. In between all of that, Leif Aaron will join me. He'll be here at 8:35. Leif is the Director of Digital Sales at Fasig-Tipton. The December digital sale ongoing right now. Bidding is open. It's the largest digital sale in the history of the platform. So we'll get to talk to him about that later in Hour 1. Hour 3 kicks off with the TwinSpires Triple Play, 10 o'clock Eastern. Vance Hanson gives you 3 races to watch and wager on this afternoon. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20. We remember Rags to Riches on this Saturday morning. And at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans, with Tim Wilkin, tackling some of the hottest topics in the sport today. Time now to check in with our producer, Lee Delapina. He has this week's Impossible Trivia question. Lee?
Thank you, Mike. Aqueduct Racetrack closed in 1956 and reopened in September of 1959 after a $33 million renovation designed by what noted racetrack architect? No Googling. We'll give out the answer at the end of the show.
Yeah, right around 10:55 Eastern is when you'll get that answer. Challenge yourself. Hope you get it right. Who will win today's Remsen at Aqueduct? That's the poll question for you. I just went through the fact that I feel this is such a deep group and a quality group. Well, I want to know your thoughts. Who do you think is going to win the Remsen today? You can go to @HRRN on X. You can go to Horse Racing Radio Network on our Facebook page. Or you can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, to let me know. And I'll give you a few choices. Let's take Paladin. Let's take Courting. And how about Renegade? 3 highly regarded youngsters. Paladin, Courting, Renegade, or somebody else. And if you choose somebody else, if you think it's somebody other than the top 3, comment and let me know which horse you feel is going to win the Remsen at Aqueduct this afternoon. And I'll pass along the results of that poll question as we move throughout the show. Mike Maker joins me next here on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, Horse Racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
A Keeneland session topper from the first crop of the all-conquering Vekoma. Jonathan's Way was touted by purchaser John Moynihan as, quote, one of the best-looking horses you'll ever lay your eyes on. Out of an undefeated stakes-winning juvenile daughter of Indian Charlie, Jonathan's Way is a complete outcross through his first 5 generations and comes from the immediate female family of the great Dynaformer. Brilliantly talented with the pedigree and physical makeup to be commercial dynamite. Jonathan's Way, a future stallion star, standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
From the outside in Toglieb, it's Toglieb and Montclair to settle the score. Hunter O'Reilly's up into third. Toglieb driving to the lead, and Toglieb and Tyler Gaffleone to win the Allen Jerkins. Bullard's Alley for a head in front, but Runtime. Motors on the outside. Bullard's Alley and Runtime. Runtime and Bullard's Alley. These two, it's a photo finish. After 2 miles, they're separated by 2 inches. It's Value Engineering who's come away with the lead. From the inside, and Soleil Volante ducking to the fence, and Barberini. 1/8 of a mile to go. It's still Value Engineering in front. Wicked Fast takes a shot at him on the outside. Value Engineering close to home on a clear lead, and Value Engineering proves much the best to win the Allen Jerkins 1.5 lengths.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. Coming into today, trainer Mike Maker has saddled 3,682 career winners. 3 of those have come in the H. Allen Jerkins at Gulfstream Park, which is once again renewed this afternoon. You just heard Pete Aiello with the call of all 3 of those victories. And if Risk Manager can find his way to the winner's circle, Maker is going to equal his fellow Wayne Lucas protege Todd Pletcher for most wins in that 2-mile turf test. But that's not it. Mike is busy today. He also has horses entered in 3 stakes at Aqueduct this afternoon, including the Grade 2 Cigar, the Grade 2 Remsen, and in tonight's Boone County Stakes at Turfway Park. And he's kind enough to spend a little time with us here on a very busy day for him. Mike, appreciate the visit.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to this conversation and looking forward to seeing Risk Manager. We'll start with him, since I was just playing that trifecta of Allen Jerkins victories that you've accumulated. But Risk Manager, he's one of those horses that shows up every time you lead him over, isn't he?
Sure does. He's a little long in the tooth and doesn't lose a step.
No, he doesn't. 7 years old. What's the most impressive thing about Risk Manager, Mike?
Really his longevity and consistency. In the Claim and Crown last time, distance wasn't ideal for him, but I felt he still ran a credible race.
As his trainer, and you've had so much success with these types of horses that get older in their career, they're marathon turf runners, if you will. What do you have to do to keep a horse running at the top of their game at this age?
Well, he's only Ken and Sarah Ramsey sent him to me as a 2-year-old, so as far as I know, he only had 1 minor injury in his whole career. Case Chambers was kind enough to send him back to me after he had claimed him, and he got lucky right out of the box. But he's a pretty easygoing horse and not very hard on himself.
The inside post going 2 miles. He's a horse that likes to come from out of it most of the time. No concerns there, I would imagine.
No, not at all. I'd like to think at 2 miles he'd be a little closer today, but anyway, we shouldn't lose any ground.
This will be his 38th career start, and this used to be commonplace. We don't see that as much anymore, but 38 starts. He's won 11, second 5 times, and he's been third twice. How cool is it, though, every time you walk over with this horse, or any horse like him, that you're going to get his best effort?
No, it's great. We've been kind of a little slump the last week, so it's nice to lead him over.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, I mentioned that your work is not done with Risk Manager. If you can win that race, you're going to equal Todd with 4 victories in the race, and I know that would certainly be special. I'm going to talk to you about another very special honor that you got with Oaklawn this past week. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's get to Aqueduct for a minute, because you have 3 horses running there, including I did in the Remsen. Let's start with him. Son of Curlin, he's another horse that's shown a lot of ability already.
He was a horse we were high on from day one, purchased him in a 2-year-old in training sale. He just galloped. Now, Brandon was a consigner, but we've been high on him since day one. Been pointing to this race really since the summertime. Last time I felt he lost quite a bit of ground and ran a credible race. His gallop out in every race is tremendous. And hopefully today he gives us a look into what next year might look like.
Mike, what's the biggest difference in working with a young 2-year-old like this? And I know he's going to be making his 5th career start, but a young 2-year-old as opposed to a seasoned veteran like Risk Manager. What's different in your approach?
There's not a whole lot of, both horses are very easy to train, so there's pretty straightforward, really. Both have good appetites, carry the weight well, feel good and love their job, so no complications at all.
I mentioned earlier that this is such a quality group. When you look at Todd's horse, well, Todd's got a few in there, right? But you look at Chad Brown and Paladin, and you look at Todd and Courting, a $5 million purchase. There are a lot of really good horses in this Remsen today. Size up the competition for me a little bit.
Very tough, very deep field. Usually you don't see full fields at the Remsen, but is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. It's been since Thunder Gulch won the Remsen and then went on and took the Kentucky Derby the following year that we've seen a horse come out of the Remsen and wear the roses the next year. Why do you think that is?
Derby's a tough race to win.
Yeah, it certainly is. I know that's high on your bucket list, isn't it?
Sure is.
No, it would be nice to see from Mike Maker. He's my special guest here on the Equine Forum on HRRN. Mike, how about the Cigar Mile? Talk to me a little bit about the Cigar Mile. Micah? Am I Micah or Mika?
Mike, I believe, if I remember correctly, Steve Spielman told me he was named after a hockey player. I don't know if it was a goalie or something, but I believe it's Mika.
Big win last time out, won by 14 lengths. Tell me more about him.
As a horse we were sent as a 2-year-old, and we chipped a knee out of a race at Kentucky Downs, and fortunately didn't come back to my barn, but now he's back. But came in great condition from Brittany Russell, and looking forward to if last race was a fluke or not.
Well, his last 2 have been pretty good. His last 2, he won by 9 1/4 2 starts ago, 14 last time out. Both of those in wire-to-wire fashion. Do you expect to see him up close today, if not on the lead?
Yeah. We'll leave it up to Manny, but as I say, he'll be forwardly placed and training pretty aggressive, so wouldn't expect him to be too far back.
Then tonight, and Mike, I don't know when you get time to sleep, because tonight in the Boone County Stakes, you're going to be up watching Varev go to the post in there. Tell me a little bit more about the Boone County.
It's been a great claim, very kind to us. We were fortunate that they voided a claim on him at Saratoga and came back and won at Churchill Downs. Hadn't been able to get him in since, but expect another big performance from him tonight.
He's a son of Oscar Performance, and we know that he's been pretty darn good. So from a pedigree perspective, you got to feel pretty confident there.
Yeah, I do. Although we haven't been able to get in last month at Churchill, time served him well.
Yeah, it certainly has. 6-1 on the morning line under Luan Machado. Mike, when you have a day like this and you have horses and stakes at multiple racetracks, how do you keep up with it all?
Well, we got the Kenny McPeak app. We just but
that certainly helps.
No, seriousness. We're heading to New York, watch the races, and hopefully we get back to make it to Turfway tonight.
Yeah, and good assistance, I would imagine, is the key.
Yes.
Well, speaking of good assistance, I mentioned Oaklawn Park, and you and Dallas Stewart, who are both from the D. Wayne Lukas training tree, you spent a lot of time under Wayne before going out on your own. You were both honored by getting stalls in Wayne's barn at Oaklawn Park. How special was it to get that news?
Very nice. Me and Dallas are neighbors over here at Churchill Downs. Pat had called and talked to me about it, and I asked Dallas how many stalls he put in for, and I called Pat back and said, look, what Dallas needed at Oaklawn and what I needed at Oaklawn pretty much took the whole barn. So I told Pat, I said, just give us the barn and don't worry about the numbers. We'll fill it up.
Mike, when you hear the name Wayne Lukas, what does that mean to you?
Oh, it's, as kids, people had sports heroes, and that's who I looked up to, Wayne Lukas. So I was fortunate enough to him be my idol and be able to go to work for him.
How were you first introduced to Wayne?
Actually, from Detroit, and our season ended in November. And I'd called Dallas Stewart, actually, see if he needed any help, and Dallas is the one that hired me on. I met Wayne the upcoming spring.
Man, it's so cool. There's a saying that says never meet your idols, right? Because it's hard to live up to the vision that's in your head. But not only did you meet your idol in Wayne Lukas, but you got a chance to learn from him. What do you remember about the first time you met Wayne?
I'm a pretty laid-back guy, so I've met quite a few celebrities and stuff in my time, so I'm not really one to get starstruck. But was introduced to him, shook his hand, went on about my business, and he went on about his.
You make it sound so nonchalant. Well, Mike Maker has learned his lessons very well. As I mentioned, more than 3,600 wins in this tremendous career. Mike, if you were to point to one or two things that Wayne taught you that even today you still use in your operation, what would they be?
Pretty much try to give the horse the best of everything, and they'll give the best to you.
No, that's pretty simple, and it's worked really well for you, Mike, and I want to wish you continued success this afternoon and moving forward as well. As always, really appreciate the time. I know it's a busy day for you. Go get it done. Good luck in all those stakes races we just talked about.
Thank you.
All right, Mike Maker here on HRRN. A little insight into stakes races, not just at Aqueduct, but all over the country. Again, we're going to talk more about each of the stakes races at Aqueduct this afternoon with the MIG, Richard Migliore. Coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern to begin hour number 2. But I really wanted to – I reached out to Mike, not just because he had horses in all those stakes races, but because of the fact that he and Dallas were honored with getting stalls in Wayne's old barn at Oaklawn Park. Wayne Lukas meant so much to both of them, and now for them to be there in his barn, I think is so appropriate, and a classy move by Oaklawn, too, that they made that work. So kudos to everybody involved there, and looking forward to seeing these Mike Maker runners do their thing later today. All right, coming up next, going to shift gears before we get back to racing at Aqueduct and Richard Migliore at 9 o'clock. You're going to hear from Leif Aaron. He's the Director of Digital Sales at Fasig-Tipton, and boy, does he have one heck of a sale to talk about. It's going on now, the December digital sale. We'll talk about that next, right after your Legends of the Turf and this short commercial break.
This is the story of a man who, by accomplishment, was the picture of a veritable giant on the palette of the world of thoroughbred racing. From modest beginnings in Pennsylvania to his death at the age of 86, he had experienced unparalleled success in both racing and breeding. The green and white silks of his stable were accountable for 4 Kentucky Derby winners. He was born December 12, 1859 in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, where in his early years he worked in steel mills and other industrial establishments. Recognizing very quickly that his future lay in other forms of human endeavor, so to speak, he heeded Horace Greeley's advice to head west to become part of our nation's then burgeoning westward expansion. He became both a prospector and a gold miner, and in a relatively short period of time managed to accrue enough equity to head for the windy city on the banks of Lake Michigan, Chicago, where he began to invest in real estate. In 1898, at the age of 39, he acquired a small stable of horses as part of following a physician's advice to get out into the open air more extensively. The first horse he purchased was named Fair John, and that horse registered the first win for the soon-to-be renowned stable at Harlem, Illinois, July 27, 1898. The best of his early stable of thoroughbreds was named Bad News, because it traveled so fast, of course, who was by Flying Dutchman out of Black Sleeves. The horse had been purchased as a 3-year-old from Woodford and Buckner. In 1906, he bought a 335-acre tract of land in the bluegrass of Kentucky and expanded his interests into breeding. That farm eventually embraced some 1,500 acres and housed such prominent stallions as Helmet, Black Tony, North Star III, Black Servant, Bubbling Over, Burgo King, Balladeer, Bimlick, and Blue Larkspur. The name of the farm was Idle Hour Farm and spawned 4 homebred Kentucky Derby winners: Behave Yourself in 1921, Bubbling Over in 1926, Burgo King in 1932, and Broker's Tip in 1933. The latter broke his maiden in that Derby, winning that infamous stretch duel with Headplay. Other notables from a virtually endless list that came from the Idle Hour Farm just outside Lexington included Baba Kenny, Big Pebble, B-Mac, and Busher. This gentleman accumulated enormous wealth from a variety of vocational interests, including Chicago real estate holdings, extensive newspaper interests, and the Beach Club Casino in Palm Beach, Florida. He was a man widely known for his charity and philanthropy, with extensive involvement in projects such as orphanages and other worthy enterprises. Among his turf-related accomplishments were the development of the Fairgrounds Racetrack in New Orleans as a winter site for thoroughbred racing, and through his breeding stock was greatly responsible for the success of such subsequent luminaries of the world of racing as John W. Galbraith, Edward Morris, and movie mogul Louis B. Mayer. He died at the age of 86 on August 15, 1946, although the permanent influence of this octogenarian on the history and development of the American turf will always be indelibly emblazoned on its most glowing of pages. That man who made the green and white silks of the Idle Hour Farm, the stuff of which legends are made, was a true titan of the thoroughbred world, and his story is indeed a great moment in thoroughbred racing. He was Colonel E. R. Bradley.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
Liberty National has rallied to the front and kicks on to lead by 2. Albus gives way. Maximum Effort gives way. Stirring Words trying to get up into second with Market Runner. But Liberty National in a stylish win.
Liberty National, the son of Darley stallion Maxfield, became the 4th TDN rising star for his sire with that victory in a maiden special weight event at Churchill Downs on November 29th, becoming his sire's 20th first crop winner. And that's a winning effort, which makes Liberty National your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley stallion Maxfield. In addition to Liberty National, he is also the sire of 8 stakes horses and will stand the 2026 season for a fee of $50,000 live full. Learn more about Maxfield and all the Darley Stallions by visiting darleyamerica.com. Coolmore Stallion Corniche, a $1.5 million OBS April sale topper by Quality Road and a 2-time Grade 1 winner.
But it's Corniche. He's just too good. Corniche wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Voted champion 2-year-old male following his win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, it's no surprise his 72 yearlings sold for an average of over $170,000, with a top price colt of $725,000 and a top price filly of $525,000. Corniche standing for only $15,000 at Coolmore's Ashford Stud.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Wild Bout Hillary sneaking away again to a 1.5 length lead. Free Like a Girl, still in chase mode second. Love Tyler Gaffleone getting to work on her, but she's going to have to turn it around to win it. She's in third, plotting in place at the moment. They're down the stretch in the Bayakoa. Wild Bout Hillary still in front. Free Like a Girl chasing with determination. Love trying ever so hard on the far outside. 16th to go. Wild Bout Hillary. CJ McMahon holding off Free Like a Girl, who's lunging at Love. Wild Bout Hillary in a photo with Free Like a Girl, who made it tight. Those two hit it on the line together with Love third, then Little Jamie and Corningstone.
Wild Bout Hillary with that win in the Grade 3 Bayakoa. It was her nose on the wire first, and she is one of the stars in the Fasig-Tipton December digital sale, which is taking place right now. Bidding is now open. It is the largest digital thoroughbred sale ever conducted, with 690 entries cataloged. It will close over 2 days, this coming Tuesday and Wednesday. It's a pretty big deal. There are some really big names in this sale, and Leif Aaron is the director of digital sales at Fasig-Tipton. He joins me now here on HRRN. Leif, appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I really appreciate having me on. It was fun to listen to that race call from Wild Bout Hillary. A quick story about that particular horse is the guy that trains that, Tanner Tracy, that filly is a friend of mine. And when we were both young guys, he was an intern at TaylorMade, and I was working at TaylorMade. We were in our early 20s, and that filly was the first graded stakes winner he ever trained, and that his dad was a trainer also, Ray Tracy, and it was the first graded stakes winner between the two of them ever. So that was a big day for Tanner, and I was really proud of him and really proud to have this filly on the website right now to sell.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. I actually reached out to him after that victory and got to spend an hour with him on our Trainer Talk show, which has been presented by Fasig-Tipton for a very long time. And just to hear his story and his enthusiasm for the game, boy, that was really cool.
Yeah, really is cool. Really is cool. And he's a family man, and seeing him have some success is really a cool thing.
Yeah, it is. So tell me more about this sale. Wild Bout Hillary is one of the stars, but there are plenty of others. And I mentioned the largest digital thoroughbred sale ever conducted. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It feels like it today, too. We've had, it's been the week trying to get everything together, and I think that's what the biggest feat. It really is a team effort getting the sale put together. It's a lot of material to put together in a short amount of time, between pedigrees and x-rays and pictures and videos and all the ingredients that go into the sale. But, this is our time to shine. Last year our December digital sale was our biggest sale of the year, and this year it's exactly the same. And, we're making gains on last year as far as numbers go. And so, it's kind of full steam ahead.
Yeah, the digital sale platform has continued to evolve. It's continued to improve. It's continued to grow. Leif, what are you most proud of when you think about the success of the digital sales?
Well, it's new ground. I don't know. There's a lot of things I'm proud of, to be honest with you. What I'm most proud of is probably our team for putting this sale together. and doing something new for the first time. Like, that's always hard to do, and there's always a learning curve. And with horses, the learning curves can be pretty steep, and I think we've been able to pull this off pretty well as far as, selling over 3,000 horses at this point. So, I think that's probably what I'm most proud of.
So if there's a buyer out there and they're listening now, they can go to digital.phasictipton.com and they can place their bids. How does a potential buyer go about getting a look at the horses they might want to buy?
Yeah. So the catalog is split up, and all the brood mares are on day 2. All the race horses and everything else is on day 1. So that's the easiest way to split it up. Go through the pedigrees or past performances, find the ones you like on there, get registered to bid, and it says right on the page, register to bid. You'll click that. Our guys will be in touch as far as getting you set up with credit. And then once you get credit, you'll see a blue button pop up that says contact, and that's a contact for each individual horse. And you'll be able to call and go see the horse in person if you want to. You don't have to. And then all the vetting is available just like it would be in a in-person sale. It really is just like an in-person sale. It's just nobody's at Phasing Tipton. So it's all there. It's all there. It makes it easy. And with the weather being cold and snow on the ground right now, it's pretty nice to be able to shop from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, it's really cool. And from a consignor perspective, the big names that we're used to seeing year in and year out at the Phasing Tipton sales, well, all auctions really, TaylorMade and Elite and, names such as those. Bob Baffert, who has an agent there for Natalie. There are some really big names represented on the consignor side, too. Gainesway, for example.
There sure is, and it's really no surprise. I mean, those guys are professional horse sellers. It's a large scale sale at this point, and all the major guys are participating. So it's really exciting to have them on there and get to see what they're bringing us. It's been very, very exciting.
Leaf, it seems like so much of our daily lives is done online, on our phones, digitally, whatever the case might be. Do you see the digital sales platform, changing or impacting the overall sales scene in any way?
Yeah, I do. I think I think overall a lot of the breeding stock will probably, low to medium level breeding stock. I'm not talking like our Night of the Stars sale in November. That's not going to change. That's an event. All the stars come out. Everybody's there for one night. But I do think the majority of breeding stock is probably going to start getting sold online. It's less stress. It's better for the horses. It's better for the people. It's less stress. And we're seeing huge gains in that route. I don't think the yearlings, that's going to change at all. I think most of the yearlings and weanlings, a lot of those are still going to be sold in person, the majority of them. But I think racehorses and breeding stock are the most conducive to digital sales, and I think that's what we're going to see the gains in, and I think we'll start seeing a little smaller versions of what typically would be kind of like marathon sales. I think those will become a little smaller. Just it's a little more cost effective to sell them online also. So it's in a day and age where it's hard for a breeder to get any break. I mean, it's very expensive to keep a horse. So this is one little way for us to help the breeder, the horse. Everybody has kind of benefited from the digital sales.
Over the course of my 20-plus years of doing this show, I've had multiple conversations with Boyd and with the team at Phasing Tipton about what goes into putting a catalog together for your I'll call it brick and mortar sale, right? A sale that people come to in person. And he's talked about the recruiting prospect and getting out there. And, it's a months long process of looking at horses on the farms and all of those types of things that go into it. Is it the same with a digital sale, or do you put the catalog together a little differently?
it feels like we put the catalog together for a digital sale in a fraction of the amount of time. So entries closed for the sale 10 days ago. So Olivia, who works with us at Phasing, has literally gone through the entire catalog, checked every page, made sure all the paperwork is in. I mean, it is a mammoth task. And, we just don't have as much time. So it's kind of all hands on deck to get a catalog turned around of this size in 10 days. I mean, it really is. It's an amazing task. And I think anybody that works for any sales company would tell you, wow, like turning a 650 horse catalog around in 10 days is something. And it's fun. It's exciting though. It's new ground. I mean, we're happy to have the opportunity to do it. And, we have to be very efficient with what we're doing and finding new ways to do stuff. And it's been an absolute ton of fun.
We started by talking about Wild Bout Hillary, and she is certainly one of the stars of the December digital sale. Tell me about a few others. There are some other big names in here too.
Well, I'll tell you one that pops out in my mind that I like a lot is Catmint, because my last job was managing Arrogate's book, so I like the Juddmonte horses, and there's a horse in there named Catmint. She's not a Juddmonte horse anymore, but she had the rare dual Grade 1 update last weekend. And she's a half sibling to two recent Grade 1 winners. And I know I'm saying this wrong, but Salamis or Salami is how I say it, and the other is the filly I think that won the Matriarch. So it's that's a big time update. We have Wild About Hillary. We've got, I like Bob's horse that's on there that, has ran some really good buyer numbers. He looks to me like a horse that's ready for the Middle East. And also to participate in some of the older horse graded stakes this year, into next. I mean, there's literally something for everyone. Race horses, broodmares.
You mentioned, not to interrupt you, Leaf, but you mentioned Arrogate. And when you look at the catalog, a horse named Liberal Arts stands out to me too.
Yeah. Liberal Arts is in there, and he's a cool horse. Another friend of mine, Evan Ferraro, that's his horse. And what a ride Evan and his dad went on with Liberal Arts. And, in this catalog, to me, he's a very unique horse that, I could honestly see a farm around here wanting to stand him as a stallion. I mean, he's a graded stakes winner. He's by Arrogate. He's a gorgeous individual. Liberal Arts is available on the site to purchase. And we've sold some other stallion prospects on there as well. So, it's kind of bittersweet seeing Liberal Arts on the site, because I'd love for him to still continue, running for Evan and his dad, but it's given somebody else the opportunity to run him or breed him, and and that's exciting for an exciting purchase for someone.
Yeah, among the record 690 horses cataloged in the December sale, 150 plus horses of racing age. You have 320 plus brood mares, which includes mares in foal to 113 different sires. You have 60-plus weanlings, 50 yearlings. You have stallion prospects, and then 10 offerings from the estate of Larry Johnson as well. So, as you said, something for everybody.
Right. That's exactly right. It's a lot of fun.
It should be a lot of fun. Digital.phasingtipton.com. A lot of fun, a lot of work. But if you're sitting on your couch right now, it's cold, and you're like, man, maybe I can increase my stable a little bit. Maybe I can add something good to my stable or our stallion roster. No reason not to take a look at that catalog.
That's exactly right.
After this December sale, what comes up next?
January digital. So entries are going to be due for that, I think, January 5th. We're doing 10 sales a year digitally now. So, it's once a month. So we're already getting entries in for the January digital sale. And I would tell anybody that says, man, I missed December, to go ahead and get entered in January, and we'll have a big sale there too.
Leaf, was that the goal when you began with the digital sales platform to eventually get to the point where you're having one sale each month, or is this a result of the success that the program has had?
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. I mean, I don't think we did not think it would grow this quickly, and it really has. I mean, it's grown faster than any of us ever thought it would, and I think now, just based on demand, we have to have a sale. 10 a year. We don't have one in November, and we don't have one in September because there's only room for so many sales a year. But we're getting participation from a lot of people that have never bought a horse at Fasig-Tipton. And to be honest with you, Mike, I think it's growing the game a little bit. I think you're getting new people involved, and that's it's always important in the horse business to get new people in and expose the sport to as many people as possible. And I think with these sales, we've made it the entry points a little easier for people. There's no travel involved. They get to look from home. And at the end of the day, the whole sport's about the horses. So, they're the stars. So that's what people want to see. And so we're just giving them more access to that. And that really has been, that has been fun. I know I've said that a lot today, but the whole process has been, kind of navigating new waters and learning, and it's been great. It really has been.
Leif, I'm asking our listeners in our poll question this morning, who will win the Remsen at Aqueduct this afternoon? And I'm going to guess that if you were voting in that, you're probably going to side toward Paladin.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm going Paladin.
Stick with the home team, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, a very special horse, $1.9 million purchase at Fasig-Tipton, Saratoga last year. And he's 3-1 on the morning line. Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt, the team. We'll see. So far, 0% of HRRN Nation has voted for Paladin. They're all going with Courting and Renegade, and nobody voting for Paladin yet. So you might want to get on our social media and cast your vote, buddy.
I absolutely will.
Leif, appreciate the visit. Happy holidays, my friend, and we will talk again soon.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Leif Aaron here on HRRN. And the really intriguing conversation on a lot of levels, kind of going behind the curtain, if you will, and talking about what goes into putting these sales together, how much different it is than your traditional sale where people show up on site at Fasig-Tipton and purchase horses. This a little bit different, but like Leif said, something for everybody in these sales. You can put them together quicker than you can your traditional sales and give people more options and make it easy. And he said like an entry-level introduction for people looking to buy horses. It's a great way right now, even if you're an established owner and an established trainer, and if you're a farm looking for a stallion prospect, why not take a look at that catalog? Plenty of choices out there at Fasig-Tipton in their December digital sale. All right, when I come back, I will take a look at what's ahead in Hour 2 and Hour 3. I'll get you updated there. Just told you about the poll question. You go to @HRRN on X to cast your vote. You can go to Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to weigh in, or email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, to let me know who you think is going to win the Remsen at Aqueduct this afternoon. And I'm going to talk more about that to kick off Hour 2. 9 Eastern, with the MIG, Richard Migliore. He will be here for you in just a few minutes. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
Dear Vet Ticks, it was nice to spend the night with my daughter and other veterans. It's so humbling to attend an event when you feel appreciated.
I had a wonderful time with my family. Thank you for the memories, Vet Ticks.
Dear Vet Ticks, thank you for a great experience and for your support of the military and veterans.
Thank you so much, Vet Ticks. Our family has gone through a lot the last few years, and this gave us a nice break.
Every empty seat at a concert, game, or special event is a missed opportunity to say thank you to a veteran or a service member. By giving your extra tickets to VetTix, you'll help America's heroes reduce stress, strengthen family bonds, and create a truly happy memory that will last a lifetime. So when you really want to say thank you for your service, give the experience, give the memory. VetTix. Give something to those who gave. For more information on how you can make a difference, go to vettix.org.
Did you know? VA home loans are a key to home ownership for those who served.
I would tell anybody who is interested in getting a VA loan to just do it.
For me, the best thing about the VA loan was the simplicity of it. I was expecting, government paperwork, it was going to go on forever, and it just wasn't.
Since the down payment for a VA loan is minimal, we were able to purchase this home and then use the money that we were going to use as a down to actually fix up the home.
And the only way we could do that was because the nest egg that we had saved for the down payment, we didn't have to use because we went the VA route.
This is a wonderful benefit that veterans can take advantage of.
In the military, we make a lot of sacrifices. We're away from our family a lot. And with the VA loan, it's a way that it makes it easier for us to get a home.
To learn more about VA home loans, visit va.gov/home loans.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Serena's Song has the lead. Talking Man and Thunder Gulch, they're right together. Citadine is next. Jumron is gaining ground. Afternoon Delight from the outside. Into the stretch. Serena's Song on the inside. Talking Man, Thunder Gulch. Now it's Thunder Gulch who gets the lead. Talking Man on the inside second. Now gaining ground, that's Tejano Run. It's Thunder Gulch, though, drawing off Thunder Gulch. Tejano Run, late run by Timber Country, but it's Thunder Gulch winning the Derby. Thunder Gulch wins it by 2.5 over Tejano Run and Timber Country.
That was Mike Battaglia with the call of the 1995 running of the Kentucky Derby. Thunder Gulch, trained by the late Dwayne Lucas, with the victory that day. He also took the Remsen earlier that same season. The Remsen renewed today for 2-year-olds. Looking ahead to next year, Thunder Gulch, the last horse to come out of the Remsen to win the Kentucky Derby. The year before, it produced a Derby winner in Go for Gin in 1994. You had Pleasant Colony in 1981. 1964, it was Northern Dancer. Carryback in 61. Johnstown in 1939. Those are your 6 winners of the Remsen. All 6 won both races, by the way. So maybe if that streak is going to come to an end in 2026 and we're going to see another winner from the Remsen, maybe it would be wise to take a look at the horse that wins that race this afternoon. But that's part of a stellar program. You have the Cigar Mile, too. Going to talk to the Mig, Richard Migliore, coming up in a few minutes. He'll have the inside scoop on all those. And we're going to get into what happened last Sunday with the jockeys walking out at Aqueduct after just one race. It has led now to resignations and the Jockey Club meeting with NYRA. The Jockeys Guild meeting with NYRA, saying that all is good now. They've come to an agreement. Meg will have the inside scoop on that for you as well, coming up in just a few minutes. Lonny Powell at 9:20. If you missed this at the top of the show, Lonnie's going to join me. He's the CEO of the FTBOA. And when Damon Thayer appeared on this program 2 weeks ago to talk about the Florida decoupling situation, he made some comments that didn't go over well with the FTBOA, mentioning that the Florida breeding industry was caught flat-footed last year with decoupling, asleep at the wheel, not doing its job in Tallahassee. Well, The FTBOA took exception to that. They sent out a press release rebuking those words, those statements, saying that's not true. Well, today Lonny is going to be here at 9:20 to tell their side of the story. And we'll see if we can get everybody rowing in the same direction here toward one goal of not allowing decoupling to become reality in the Sunshine State. Got a minute or two before I have to get to Richard Migliore here to kick off Hour 2. Richard, Lonny Powell. Hour 3 kicks off with the TwinSpires triple play, 10 o'clock Eastern. Kurt Becker, Stroll Through Racing History at 10:20, remembering rags to riches. And at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans, with Tim Wilkin. But it gives me an opportunity to tell you that if you're going to be in Central Kentucky for any reason in the next month, 2 months, 3 months, make your reservations now for Tony's of Lexington. They're on Rupp Arena, right behind Main Street. And I've told you for years on this program, it's the greatest steak you're going to have anywhere. Anywhere. I'm a steak and potatoes guy. I know my steak. It's pretty awesome. I haven't found a better one yet at any restaurant. So make your reservations now. Enjoy a wonderful meal, great atmosphere, great service. You really can't beat it. Tony's of Lexington. And you heard a commercial in that last commercial break. If you were paying attention, you heard one for Woodford Feed. And my friend Bob Cleveland over there. What a job they do. And I know we play their commercial every week for you here on the show, but I think it's appropriate every once in a while to tell you how great they are with their service and with the offerings that they have. And it's not – Bob has been so helpful to me with my farm, my properties, but he can also help you. There are so many horse people that do business with Bob. It doesn't matter what you're in the market for, what you need. They will take care of you at Woodford Feed, even right down to farm equipment with, if you need a chainsaw, if you need a weed eater for working on the farm, they can help you out with that. If you want some shell corn, they can help you out with that. Any kind of feed, they'll take care of you. And they're knowledgeable. They're good people. Make sure you check them out over at Woodford Feed and for Sales. Going to talk to another very knowledgeable person coming up next. That's the MIG. Right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of 3 on this Saturday morning, 6th day of December, 2025. Mike Penna, Baron in the Backstretch with you on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. This, the show that launched a network, and launching into the second hour of the program in a big way. Going to visit with Richard Migliore, the longtime jockey, now NYRA and Fox Sports analyst, does a wonderful job on television. Going to talk to him about a lot of different things taking place at Aqueduct, including what we saw last Sunday with the jockey walkout after just one race. We're going to talk about the big races coming up this afternoon as well with the Cigar Mile and the Remsen. We'll get to that coming up in just a few minutes. And then, of course, Lonny Powell from the FTBOA coming your way at 9:20 Eastern. So a loaded second hour of the program. If you missed the impossible trivia question at the top of the show, going to give it to you again here this morning. The answer coming your way toward the end of the program at 10:55 Eastern. But challenge yourself, no Googling. What noted racetrack architect designed the grandstand at Aqueduct in 1959? No Googling. See if you can get it right. I'll pass along the answer at the end of the show. Big day at Aqueduct today. Aqueduct has been in the headlines the past week for various reasons, and the MIG, Richard Migliore, is with me now here on HRRN. Mig, good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing great, my friend. I was just watching, as I was prepping for the show this morning, I was watching a video that NYRA put out there on their social media. You hosted a walkthrough, if you will, of great moments in Cigar Mile history, and I thought it was really well done.
Well, thank you. Honestly, the credit has to go to the guys that created. The behind-the-scenes people. I'm just a face they put out there, and I talk about it, and they planned it out. Evan and Eldon, all the guys I work with. We're being on-air talent. It's like you're the jockey, right? You're the most high-profile part of the team, but no less important than the groom, the assistant, the trainer, everybody else behind the scenes that make it happen.
Meg, as we look toward Aqueduct celebrating their final season of racing, you have some memories at Aqueduct, I'm sure, when you think back on your time riding races. When you hear the name Aqueduct Racetrack, what things immediately come to mind?
Well, I can see, 10-year-old me going to the races with my father. Aqueduct, at the time, New York Racing would close for the winter, and we would come back in March, and we were always there the opening Saturday, and they always ran the toboggan handicap. And I remember being on the train with my father going back home to Brooklyn. I grew up exactly 8 miles from Aqueduct, telling him how I was going to be a jockey and I was going to win the toboggan handicap. And it's a very vivid memory for me. And my father, talking to me saying, well, anything you want to do, you have to dedicate yourself. You have to work hard. And then, obviously, I did become a jockey, and I won the toboggan handicap 6 times more than anybody. And you got to understand, Mike, where I grew up, I was aware of the Kentucky Derby, but that might as well have been Mars. Aqueduct was, something tangible for me. It was right there basically in my backyard, and the toboggan handicap could have been my Kentucky Derby, and especially because it'll always have that meaning of that conversation with a kid that had this idea and then somehow, was fortunate enough that it worked out.
With that said, how do you describe your emotions as we walk through this final season at Aqueduct?
I know I'm going to be emotional and sad when it is actually done. I get twinges of it now walking through the building and thinking about all of the memories there, how, this was the place that, fueled the fire that was burning inside of me, right? But a little mixed emotions, too, because I will reign forever in perpetuity as the all-time leading rider at Aqueduct.
How cool is that?
It's really cool. I mean, if you'd have told me, when I was that little kid that, one day you'll be the guy who visited the winner's circle more on horses' backs than anybody else in the history of this place. And, I spent a lot of winters in New York. So, it's not like, oh, that makes me the best rider ever there. It was just that I spent the most time there. And I enjoyed riding in the winter. The cold wasn't always easy, but it didn't bother me as much as it bothers a lot of other people. And the thing I always said, Mike, is it's always warm in the winner's circle. So, there were a lot of reasons for me winding up being the leading rider forever there. And the only rider that might have had a chance at me and just so unfortunate was Ramon Dominguez. I mean, he would have, he was still about 1,000 behind me, but he easily could have won 100 races there a year for 10 years and caught me. And I had injuries that ended my career, but I was also in the twilight of my career. Ramon was in the midst of his prime when his career ended, and that always bothered me, that he had so much more to give, so much more to offer the game and his career. Jockeys' careers end all the time because of injuries, but his seemed particularly unfair to me.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that 100%, Meg. I want to get to talking about the big races this afternoon and look back on what occurred last Sunday with the jockey walkout after just one race. We'll get to that in a minute. But, since we're spending some time talking about Aqueduct and that history of Aqueduct, so many special moments have occurred there and so many great horses have come through there. Your feature on the NYRA social media was great looking at the Cigar Mile, but what are some of the other races that are going to stand out to you?
Well, the Wood Memorial, obviously for years, one of the main key preps for the Derby. The problem that's hurt the Wood Memorial over the years is that, horses take so much more time between races than they used to. So you're back in the Wood Memorial up to a period of time when the weather really hasn't completely changed in New York. So trainers became reluctant to point towards it because they might get, a sloppy track or it could be snowy. There was a period of time when the Wood was the end of a series. We would run the Swift going 6 furlongs. 2 weeks later, the Bayshore going 7 furlongs. 2 weeks later, the Gotham going a mile. 2 weeks later, the Wood Memorial going a mile and an eighth. So it was a great comprehensive series that stretched those horses out incrementally. And then 2 weeks after the Wood Memorial was the Kentucky Derby. And now it's, at least a month to 5 weeks before, the horses will take their last prep before the Derby. So that's hurt the Wood Memorial in a lot of ways. And then the Demoiselle and the Remsen, which we run today, are two incredible races because they're really a strong barometer of what these 2-year-olds are going to go on to do as 3, because 9 furlongs is a very demanding distance for a 2-year-old. And I really think that who can get the 9 furlongs now, it really bodes well for them to get the classic distances going forward the next spring.
Meg, I made the case earlier in the program that the last horse to win the Remsen and then go on and take the Kentucky Derby was Thunder Gulch back in 1995. But I made the case that if that streak is going to come to an end in 2026, it could be a member of the group that we're going to see today, because this is a really high-quality group, and the expectations for many of these horses are extremely high at this point.
Oh, absolutely. You get some very high-priced bloodstock here.
Yeah.
And a couple horses that showed a lot of ability. I mean, Paladin, who was placed first in disqualification on debut, and I'm not convinced that he wasn't going to be second to Renegade regardless. Renegade did bump him late, but had gotten his head in front with momentum. I don't think it really altered the outcome. That being said, that aside, they both ran winning races. Here's a $1.9 million son of Gun Runner. He was very, very green first time out in the preliminaries. He was hollering at everything. And a lot of people will mistake a horse acting studdish or making a lot of noise. That they are acting studdish, I should say. I've framed it better. And a lot of times it's more just an outlet, a way of emitting that nervous energy they have. They're unsure of themselves, new surroundings, different place. Wow, more horses around me, what's going on? I think if he takes even a half a step forward from that mental part, I think the physical parts altogether, you could see a better performance from him today, obviously. Renegade, I thought, was very good. It was his second start, so he had the benefit of a start. But I loved the way he took the kickback and the way he split horses, and he came up the inside. He showed a level of professionalism that you don't always see from 2-year-olds. And he was only a $975,000 Keeneland purchase. So, this is a race that's got some very interesting potential to it.
Yeah, I'd say. How about Courting? $5 million the purchase price for Courting as a yearling.
Yeah, I mean, and he was good. I mean, both of his first races were good. He is a son of Curlin out of cavorting that you would expect is going to get better as he gets older. It doesn't scream a 2-year-old pedigree to me. But he's already shown ability. He's got Hall of Fame connections in his corner, Todd Pletcher, Johnny Velasquez. And I'm sure Johnny had some options here with the Todd runners, and he winds up here. And obviously they have Ted Naffy. So I think Todd is loaded. I mean, he's got, I think, as good a group, deepest group of 2-year-olds that I've seen in a long time.
Well, he had his long Kentucky Derby streak snapped last year. Love to see him start another one in 2026. How about the Cigar Mile? Tell me more about that race today.
Let me just get to it real quick, Mike. I'm sorry. Got my
No, you're good. Again, this is a race. We talked about the history and the tradition and the big-name horses. Of course, the horse is named after Cigar, one of the greatest of all time, although I always maintain my position and defend my boy Holy Bull that you never would have heard a Cigar if Holy Bull stayed healthy, but that's a whole nother discussion, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, we all have our opinions and the way it panned out.
Who's your favorite horse of all time?
Oh, that's Forgo. That's instant, because he was the horse that made me fall in love with the game, and his obviously what a greatness, but his longevity. I'd be a little kid looking for his name in the entries come May every year when I was falling in love with racing. And they'd always make a 5 or 6 horse allowance race go to, get him started for the season. And later on, when he was the last year of his career, and Frank Whiteley would be out there hosing him, and I was a little backstretch rat, I would go and hang out with Mr. Whiteley, and they'd be basically flooding the horse path. I mean, he had ankles on him. You wouldn't know Forgo nowadays. You wouldn't get to run, but he was a champion in every sense of the word. For me, greatness is sustained excellence over a long period of time, and he was the horse that grabbed me.
How about this question, Meg? When Dale and Tim join me for I Ask, They Answer at the end of the show, 10:30 Eastern, one of the topics I'm going to bring up to them is I want to ask them about their favorite closers of all time. Do you remember a closer, a late runner that you rode in your career that stands out to you that is always going to hold a special place in your heart?
Yeah, Philly named Island Charm, who was, back when they didn't have an Eclipse category for female sprinters, she was the experimental free high weight. So essentially she was the champion that year. And she had been a filly that always had a lot of speed. I started galloping her when I was 14 years old when I first went to work for Mr. DeMauro. And I was the only person to ever gallop her in the mornings until a jockey rode her in the afternoons. And I wound up, when she was 4, I had the bug and had been galloping her. She was at Hialeah at that time. I stayed in New York. And they sent her up to New York. My boss put me on her in an allowance race, and I expected she was going to go to the lead and go wire to wire. And she stumbled at the break, got up. I'm far back. I put my hands down, and, there'll probably be another day. And she came blitzing through the stretch and won. And the next start, she was running in the vagrancy, and there was a lot of discussion if they were going to let me ride her because you don't get the weight allowance in the stake as an apprentice.
Yeah.
And ultimately, David McKibben, her owner, said, I think we should leave Richie on her. He knows her. He galloped her for a year and a half and, just won on her. And now I'm fully expecting in the vagrancy, well, she'll go back to her style. She broke clean. She broke on top, and she took herself back to last, and she came smoking and won again. And she wound up completely rearranged her style, and she was as good a closing sprinter. She caught the filly's name was Tax Holiday, and I don't remember exactly which stake it was. It might have been the Distaff in the fall. No way she can catch Tax Holiday, who was a quality mare for Tartan Farm with Angel Cordero. And she made up about 7 lengths in the last furlong and got up and won by a nose. And she was, to me, the essence of a closing sprinter.
That's such a cool story. Richard Migliore, the Meg, with me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Meg, let's talk about that Cigar Mile. Phileas Fogg, 9-5 on the morning line. A horse that on his day can be really tough. He's pretty honest. Is he the horse to beat?
Well, yeah, and you got to appreciate him. I like my horses the way I like my people, honest and hardworking. He shows up. You get Joel Rosario taking over the mount here. I have questions about the turn back to a mile. Some horses that can show that speed going further. It doesn't always translate to a mile. Gus Rodriguez is putting the blinkers on him. He's well drawn. And I don't know if you guys got this for sure, but Doc Sullivan is scratched.
Okay.
The one dark bred. I really like Bishop's Bay here. I think that, his last race, he won despite probably needing it a little bit. The company he's kept. And I think he's a true miler. And he's 3 for 3 at the distance where Phileas Fogg, as good as he is in the year he's put together, I'm not convinced he's a true miler. I think he's more of a 2-turn type horse.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good race. Again, big day at Aqueduct today with the Remsen, with the Cigar Mile. Meg, the Aqueduct's been in the news the past week. Started last Sunday when the jockeys refused to ride after just one race. Give me the latest on that situation and what led to that decision by the jockeys.
Well, I want to be clear, though, up front, Mike. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. These are Richard Migliore's thoughts, feelings, opinions. I'm not speaking on behalf of NYRA or any other entity.
Understood.
The riders, to me, were 100% wrong. And I'm always going to tend to lean in riders' favors, for obvious reasons, right? But you have a situation arise, which – frankly, is none of your business. It's a NYRA employee and NYRA. It's between them. And you insert yourself in this position. You allow emotion to get the best of you. Now, being a rider, there has to be a lot of passion and emotion, but you also got to learn how to control that emotion. And I think that I wish I would have had an opportunity to talk to them and maybe make them see the way I was looking at it as a former rider, and maybe I could have gotten through to them. But that being said, you run one race, this takes place, and what really got to me was they went into a meeting in the jockey's room, and you've got grooms walking horses around. It was raining. I was out there reporting for America's Day at the Races for nearly 40 minutes. What about those people that have already ridden a van over, that already had to get up extra early to groom their other horses before they went to Aqueduct to run their horses? What about the pony people that were up on the racetrack getting rained on? What about the people that took the time out of their holiday weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, to come out to the races? What about that owner that, made special arrangements and rearranged his schedule, especially if they didn't live in New York, to get here? Racing is an ecosystem. If one part of that ecosystem is off, the entire ecosystem is off. We are all reliant on every other component to make the game as healthy as you possibly can. You cannot take the game hostage. If you had 20 minutes, it was like a work slowdown. You had the conversation. You flexed a little muscle. You made your point. Now we have a meeting, discuss it, and figure it out at a different time, not to disrupt the entire racing card. You are not more important than any spoke in the wheel. Without the grooms, there's no game. Without the exercise riders, there's no game. Hot walkers, owners, fans, trainers. Okay, so then to read comments that we put on the show, that's completely unacceptable to me. All of the riders know how I feel about it. Some of them aren't happy with me. I don't care. I love the game more than I love being a rider. I've said this my entire life. I love racing. I love horses more. And therefore, as an extension, I love horse people. And they were treated with utter disrespect.
Mig, what specifically were some of the circumstances that led to the jockeys making that move?
Well, I don't know all the details as far as, what transpired with the Kirkus scales, or the assistant Kirkus scales, I should say. He was sent home. But obviously there were some lingering issues. One of them being Saratoga, they don't want kids in the jockey's room anymore. Now, just so people are clear, it's not like their families can't be in the backyard. There's plenty of sitting areas. I mean the backyard of the jockey's quarters, not the backyard of the racetrack, right?
Yeah.
There's benches. I don't think Tom Brady's got his kids in the locker room on the bench at halftime. I'm sorry. My son would come in when he was young, Joseph, but he would come in, maybe sit at my bench for a minute and out. Well, it was getting to a point where kids were in the way of the day-to-day operations. It's not daddy daycare. This is a professional sport. You want to be looked at as a premier athlete, well, then act as a premier athlete. Okay, guys, we understand this. Now, there is a communication thing with jockeys. You tell a jockey you can't do this, and guess what? They're probably going to try to do it. You're talking about, smaller than average men, myself included. I'm not pointing anybody out. That you've got to have a little bit of attitude, a little bit of swagger, a little chip on your shoulder almost to be good at this. If maybe it had been approached differently, saying, listen, guys, it's a liability for us to have kids in the room. Just during racing hours, we don't want children in the jockey's room anymore. After the races, you take your shower, your son, because your daughters can't go in there. It's a men's locker room. Your sons can come and sit, by the bench and wait for you after the races. There's a dialogue then. But to just command that this is the way it is, you're going to get pushback. And obviously they've hung on to this since July. And that was one of the things that came up. But I'm going to tell you, and at running the risk of sounding hypocritical, because my son would come sit in the jockey's room with me at times, but he never spent the whole day there. There's a place for it, and there's a time for it. And I think that NYRA is very accommodating in a lot of ways to the families, and these guys took it as a sign of disrespect. They pushed back. They hung on to it. It festered. So that was one of several things that came up. And again, I would just say, get over it. You got a job to do. You go to the locker room to get in a headspace that's different. I was like a snake. I would shed my skin. I could have an argument with my wife, leave the house. I walked through that door. I didn't think of it again till the races were over.
Yeah,
and
short-term memory.
Yeah, she would get upset. we had such a bad argument and you went and won 4 races today. Yeah, and I didn't think about it again once I walked through that threshold. I became a different person. You got to understand that this is a professional endeavor. This is a big money game. We're going to, why, my kid can't be in there? Come on, guys. We got to be better than that. Our game is reliant on all of us pulling together and making it the best it can be. And it can't be about me, right? It can't be that I'm just so wrapped up in my feelings. If there's no game, well, guess what? You're going to have to find a job, aren't you? We need to work together to make this game the best it can be.
Mig, listen, man, I know you've got some things to get to this morning. Looking forward to seeing you on television. NYRA Fox Sports analyst, the all-time leading rider in Aqueduct racing history. It's been a delight to catch up, my friend. Really appreciate the visit, and enjoy the afternoon of racing.
Great talking with you, Mike. Talk to you soon.
You too. Great comments, huh? Tell it like it is. Good stuff from Mig. Really appreciate it. You think that was good? Lonny Powell's coming up next from the FTBOA. They did not like what Damon Thayer had to say on this program 2 weeks ago. You'll hear that next. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
Hey, this is Bobby Newman. Join me every Friday afternoon to dive deep into handicapping the races. We'll cover the live action from some of the biggest tracks in the country, talk to some of the major players in the game, and hopefully make a little money along the way. You can also call the show to share your opinions, ask a question or two, or maybe just vent about some bad beats. It's Betting with Bobby every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, online channel 999, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, the truth is, Gulfstream Park spent over $300,000 in 2023 and part of 2024 basically filling up the campaign coffers of legislators in Tallahassee. And that's a lot of money for state legislative campaigns. And the other thing is the Florida breeding industry got caught flat-footed. I mean, apparently nobody was paying attention while Gulfstream Park was handing out all these checks. And so, last January, when the decoupling bill got dropped on us, it was a huge surprise. Someone was asleep at the wheel. And that's why the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative was formed, because the guys that I work for didn't feel like the people in charge of the Florida breeding industry were doing its job to protect the industry in Tallahassee. And, that's not a good situation if the legislators who are making the laws don't have respect for the people who represent the industry in Tallahassee. And that's exactly what happened.
That's Damon Thayer battling allergies in his appearance here on the Equine Forum 2 weeks ago. He had those comments when I asked him about the truth of what happened in Florida's fight against decoupling last year. His words have led to another battle, that with the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association, who took umbrage with Thayer's position, prompting FTBOA President Valerie Daly to send a press release on November 24th disputing the comments that you just heard. Lonny Powell is the longtime CEO of the FTBOA, and he joins me now here on HRRN. Lonny, appreciate the visit. Those words did not sit well with you, Valerie, and the FTBOA. How come?
Well, first of all,
and they weren't true. And second of all, it's really difficult to see how that was helpful for the industry. Third of all, why would somebody go public and air that kind of stuff? But beyond that, we can move forward because just this week I've been contacted by those above you, and including chairman, and they have contacted me to apologize for those comments, to disavow those comments, to say they were never authorized, and that that type of conduct will not be tolerated going forward. And so I know these folks because these folks are Floridians, and I took that call as a call of sincerity and of a desire to move forward. And so we moved forward from there. But I was very FTBOA was very appreciative of the fact that his superior called to disavow the comments and to apologize. And in this industry, there's no room for that type of harping. It gets nothing done. I still don't understand what it even was attempting to accomplish. But the good news is we move forward. In fact, we've agreed that we're going to end up putting a little bit of a gathering together of the different parties involved to see now how we can proceed with what we all have in common is to fight decoupling, which FTBOA has the longest history of, and we have a lot of knowledge of, and I think we all can agree on. So that's the priority, and then figuring out what we do in the future for a future facility, because clearly the Stronach Group's going to be in everybody, the national industry's rearview mirror when it comes to live racing somewhere in the foreseeable future.
I assume, Lonny, when you're referring to the conversation that took place this week, you're referring to the folks with the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative. Is that correct?
That reached out to me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's good. So I'm going to take you down this path then. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Damon at the beginning of that interview that led to the comments that we just played.
Yeah.
What is the truth on what happened with decoupling in Florida last year?
Well, boy, we sure didn't get caught asleep at the wheel. For one reason, I was reached out to by the Stronach Group and was engaged one-on-one with Linda Stronach's representative that is assigned to these matters. And that's when the conversation began, and they explained their intent. That's why in November we put out a piece under then President George Isaacs, calling out to the industry. Now was the time to be ever vigilant on decoupling, and we were still hopeful the time that we might be able to come up with a compromise, but we weren't totally. Let's put it this way. I wasn't totally optimistic that was going to happen because their position was pretty hard, decouple or close and develop, and and wanting to keep the casino, and so we were on it again, as we always have been, way before any other organization, including Tribe, was formed. And in fact, we had talked about the threat of decoupling at our October, December, and January board meetings before it was ever out and before the other group was formed. And at the time, the Horsemen's groups had voted for decoupling a couple different times, but they started reaching out, and we started getting conversations with them. Again, this is before any other organization was formed about what they needed to do to show some independence and they gave it their best shot. They're in a tough spot. So, but that's in terms of again asleep at the wheel. The only way would be asleep at the wheel is somebody that didn't know this. But you have to be in Florida to know really everything that goes on in Florida.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I know that was something that Valerie brought up in her press release, that the environment, the landscape of politics and racing and the casinos in Florida is completely different than a lot of other states, maybe any other state. What makes Florida so different, Lonny?
Yeah, and that's as a broad statement that applies to our industry. Gosh knows, I've run operations in enough of states. Every jurisdiction has its own unique, guide rails, opportunities, challenges. It's just like all politics is local. Our industry, because we're not under a league in one umbrella, it's still pretty local. And Florida happens to be one of the most complex states. I know back from when I was teaching law at the University of Arizona. It was always Florida and Louisiana's Napoleonic Code were the two of the toughest things to crack in terms of understanding racing regulations. So we have one of the most complicated racing statutes in the world, that's where you start upon. And then knowing the history about all that. And then now we have all these other different layers that some states, let's say, for example, a state like Kentucky doesn't have. We have the largest gaming tribal operator in the world. And as a tribal gaming state, they have much say, obviously, over gaming because they're a good part of the gaming picture in our state. We also, the slots at Gulfstream were approved after legislation was passed based on local initiatives. So that permit to have slots at Gulfstream is address specific. Now, fast forward over the years that I've been here, there was a proposition approved called the No Casinos Law that says no Las Vegas style gaming, i.e. slots, may exist any other part in the state beyond where it is now. So unless by the vote of the people. So it has to go to a ballot. Even if you get legislation approved, you have to go to the ballot. And then, and this wasn't aimed at racing, but our Florida ballot measures became much more expensive to undertake to get something on and much more difficult for a vote of the people because right around 21 as well, the threshold on a ballot measure for the vote of the people of Florida, you have to have 60% of all the voters approve it. And that's why last year, two issues, legalization of abortion and legalization of marijuana, though they scored somewhere in the 56-57% range, which in most states would have been a slam dunk to pass, they failed because that 60% is so difficult to achieve. And think if on issues like that, it's so difficult to achieve, do you really think 60% of all the voters of Florida are going to approve a measure to allow slot machines at a racetrack? And how is the racing industry going to be able to afford could go up to $100 million to run a ballot initiative? So I think these are all false flags that are distractions to folks. And to us, you got to keep your focus on what is doable. And those are some significant barriers, plus the price of the land in South Florida. And on top of it all, those that have tried to deal with Gulfstream supposedly have run into, prices that are exceed that of a what a racetrack could be justified for. They're priced beyond being racing operations, and that adds to the complications as well. So that's why it's not as easy as one might think. You can't just go say, "Oh, we'll just set up a place here, move some slots over here." No, none of that works. And again, we got to keep in mind behind all that, our tribal compact and our Seminole tribe has a lot to say about the future of gaming. Always has since I've been here. So that's why we're a lot more complicated than the average state, if that makes any sense to you.
Lonny, the FTBOA is no stranger to the decoupling issue, defeating decoupling in 2012, 2016, 2018, and 2021. How does this fight, I mean, or if it does feel different, how does it feel different going into 2026 than those previous times?
Well, I think going into 2026, we saw how most of the game plan could be played in 25, right? So in some ways, the definition of insanity can be trying the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. So if we try to handicap that, in a worst-case scenario, we could see a replication of if there is a decoupling bill introduced, and so far there has not been. But if the whole process going the same way, we would just assume not, but the same way still means possible passage in the House, not a lot of interest from the Senate or the governor, and it goes down after a lot of hard work and a lot of spilling of blood. It goes down as another decoupling defeat.
Mm-hmm. What's the deadline, Lonny, for introducing a decoupling bill?
Well, with the session starting in early January, we really should be seeing something this month. It's getting kind of late, but there's also other ways things can happen that aren't just a straight bill. And I don't want to get in all those issues, but that's kind of the stuff we do. We think about all the different scenarios and hybrids of how something might be done. You can't ever just focus on one thing, or just because it was tried one way one year, it's going to be exactly the same way. And maybe there's nothing that happens altogether, which would be wonderful. Then we could focus on, replacement. And plus, we need some reforms in our statutes for current operations and even future operations. And in the background, there's a real issue going on right now down south because there's no contract with the Horsemen and Gulfstream in a few weeks. So that's a whole other ball game all by itself. That's not going to lead to certainly a lot of positive feeling down there between the stakeholders in South Florida. So we're hoping that somehow works its way out for the Horsemen. I know they're pretty dead set on trying to do the right thing, and we're really hoping for them. And otherwise, it's all about relationships, and we've been at this game for a long time. Our lobby firm has represented us for 30 years. We've been through these decoupling wars. Every one of them is a little bit different. The positive thing is the more people that understand and are against it, it always helps. But it does come down to relationships, and it's just like everything else. Your playbook has to change based on the players.
Yeah.
And that's I've even though I've been a CEO for an awful long time at different organizations, I think I've been overseeing government relations as part of what I did. I've always been overseeing regulatory relations in all my career, but I started in government relations in 1990, and I've done it ever since in a number of different states and at the federal level. and I've never seen anything quite like last year. But it's also, it's kind of also represents a little bit of what's going on in society and the world of politics in general and things like that. These are different times to do a lot of things in, and you just got to kind of adjust to them, accept certain things, and look at what your best path is. But it's a lot of work and takes a lot of time. I mean, I myself personally, I've stayed up in Tallahassee. I've stayed up as much as in excess of 40 some days because I don't just go some other place and go do podcasts and those type of things. I'm up there working those relationships. And
what do you have against podcasts? Come on.
Well, I'm on one right now. I'm just saying, if I did this all day, I might be able to talk a lot about myself and about everything, but I wouldn't get my work done for Florida.
Let me ask you this, Lonny. If decoupling were to come to fruition at some point, is that a death sentence for racing in Florida?
If there's no counter mitigation to it, it certainly isn't good. It probably it would not be good for the industry. So you got to have a bit of an offset to it, or certainly from a transitional standpoint, you have to have a reasonable transition, and nobody should be able to walk away from the industry without paying the tab. So there needs to be a little more participation on, rather than just leaving the industry behind, on doing something to help the industry. And from my perspective and FTBOA's perspective, we're pretty solution-driven, pretty action-driven. We don't talk quite as much, but our thoughts are we want to work on making sure there's a future racing, no matter what the scenario is.
Well, Lonny, so many layers to this, and it will continue to develop and evolve as potentially a new bill could be introduced. Maybe not. We don't know yet. But there will be a lot of layers still to discuss. So I really appreciate you taking some time with me here this morning. It's a fight that requires everybody to be on the same page, rowing in the same direction. I guess I'll end it by asking you that question. Now that you've had a conversation with the Thoroughbred Racing Initiative, is there a potential for a collaboration where that organization, FTBOA, everybody that's involved on the horseman side of things in Florida can come together and row in the same direction and all with one voice try to defeat decoupling if it comes to be?
I am highly encouraged by that after receiving the call from TRRA chairman, and believe based on that conversation that such is possible. And no matter whatever differences everybody has, those should be handled internally versus, no offense, on a podcast or in a public forum where you're hurting the very industry that you're trying to help, So, and I will also say we have something else we bring to the table, because I don't think I had a chance to mention. We have the only remaining racing permit in the state. It's a thoroughbred permit, wholly owned subsidiary by FTBOA. It was approved in 2011, and FTBOA always looked at it as an insurance policy if the tracks greatly reduced dates or decoupled. So that is no longer on ice, and we're starting to take a very serious look at how to make that work. We'll have more to say about that later.
Lonny Powell, CEO of the FTBOA here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Lonny, really appreciate the time. Keep up the good fight, and I'm sure we will talk again soon.
Thank you very much, Mike. Always good to be with you. And again, I think the takeaway message is look forward to the TRI moving forward with us, and as was put to me, in support and in a spirit of teamwork. So I think a lot of what we're talking about is old news because I take them at their word. And I also look forward to sharing a lot of thoughts on the future of racing and racing models that could work in other jurisdictions, including Florida, down the road. So thank you for the opportunity, and you do a great job.
I appreciate that, Lonny. Yeah, no matter what organization you represent, the goal is the same in this particular instance. Lonny Powell here on HRRN. I'm back with more racing conversation right after this on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Coolmore Stallion Corniche, a $1.5 million OBS April sale topper by Quality Road and a two-time Grade 1 winner.
But it's Corniche. He's just too good. Corniche wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Voted champion 2-year-old male following his win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, it's no surprise his 72 yearlings sold for an average of over $170,000, with a top-price colt of $725,000 and a top-price filly of $525,000. Corniche standing for only $15,000 at Coolmore's Ashford Stud.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, for those of you who are planning your corporate holiday parties or your New Year's party or any party that you have coming up, don't forget you can now add Derby and Dance Party video horse racing to your next event, and it is so cool. You can go to derbydanceparty.com to watch videos of previous parties, give you a little better idea of what the Derby Dance Party video horse racing is all about. Check it out on their website. It doesn't matter if you're hosting a corporate event. Like so many corporations have used this. Goodyear, Penske Racing, they've used it for their corporate gatherings, but you can do it for your private party too. Horse racing knowledge is not required, and no party is too big or too small. Go to derbydanceparty.com to learn more, or call right now to book your party, 844-MY-PHILLY. They're wonderful people, and they do a great job. Time now for your monthly Kentucky Bred update, and Kentucky Breds shined around the world in 2025, didn't they? With Scandinavia and Ruling Court capturing 40% of the British Classics. Scandinavia won the Group 1 St. Leger at Doncaster, and Ruling Court won the Group 1 2000 Guineas at Newmarket. In the Middle East this year, Kentucky Breds Hit Show and Dark Saffron flexed their muscles, with Hit Show taking down the top prize in the Grade 1 Dubai World Cup, and Dark Saffron defeating the world's top sprinters in the Grade 1 Dubai Golden Shaheen. Back at home, at this year's Breeders' Cup, Kentucky Breds won 6 races, highlighted by victories from Ted Noffey in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and Super Corridora in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies on Future Stars Friday, and then Scylla in the Breeders' Cup Distaff on Championship Saturday. Make sure your horse is KTDF and KBIF eligible to secure your share of lucrative awards worldwide. Rates increase on January 1st, 2026. For more information on racing and breeding in Kentucky, visit KentuckyBreds.com. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win with Kentucky Breds. Back to tell you what's coming up in hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh. He's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh. Looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left. grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement, and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hey, this is Bobby Newman. Join me every Friday afternoon to dive deep into handicapping the races. We'll cover the live action from some of the biggest tracks in the country, talk to some of the major players in the game, and hopefully make a little money along the way. You can also call the show to share your opinions, ask a question or two, or maybe just vent about some bad beats. It's Betting with Bobby every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 162, XM 207, online channel 999, or streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, one historical date in racing history is it applies to this weekend. It was December 6th, 2001. The jockey Russell Bays gained his 400th victory of the year aboard Golden Peace at Golden Gate Fields, marking the 9th time in his career he had reached the 400-win plateau in a single season. Yeah, one of the best, maybe the best in some people's eyes, but at least the leader in terms of victories. Jockey Russell Bays, happy anniversary to you. Another historical date, which I'm going to talk about with Dale and Tim coming up at the end of the program, 10:30 Eastern, I Ask, They Answer, involves the late-running Silky Sullivan. We're going to talk about some of our favorite closers, late runners in the sport. We will do that coming up in just a little bit to wrap up the show at hour 3, 10:30 Eastern. Still to come, too, the answer to the impossible trivia question and our poll question update, which is this. Who will win today's Remsen? Gave you 3 choices: Paladin, Courting, Renegade, or someone else. So far, 50% of HRRN Nation say it is going to be the $5 million yearling purchase Courting who will prevail in that race. Paladin getting 14% of the vote, Renegade 7%, and someone else 29%. So a lot of you thinking it's going to be somebody outside of those top 3. And it speaks to what I talked about to open the show today, the depth, the quality of this year's Remsen. I don't think we've seen a deeper field than this in many, many years in the Remsen. This looks to be a good group, a promising group with a lot of upside. Now, we'll see how that plays out when the calendar turns to 2026 and the real running starts on the road to the Kentucky Derby. But at this point, it appears to be a really rock-solid group. Want to say congratulations. I was talking about jockey Russell Bays. Congratulations to my good friend Rajiv Miraj. He achieved another career milestone yesterday at Gulfstream Park. Win number 2,000 for the native of Jamaica. Irie, man. Well done. Good to see Rajiv back in the winner's circle again, and somebody who has overcome so much with injuries and all of that in his career, and then still riding strong and now reaching that new milestone. Really cool stuff from Rajiv Miraj. Don't forget, you can check out the podcast of this program on our website, HorseRacingRadio.net, and on your favorite podcast platform. Just search for Horse Racing Radio Network, and you can follow along with this show and all the shows we bring your way. It'll be posted after I finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern this morning, as it is every week. But I had a chance this morning to catch up with Mike Maker, talking about his runners in the Remsen, in the Cigar Mile, the Alan Jerkins, the Boone County Stakes. I mean, he's loaded everywhere. He'll be working late into the night saddling horses here. But that's why he's one of the best in the business. Lee Farron was with me in the first hour of the program. You heard from Richard Migliore holding nothing back when he talked about the jockey situation last week at Aqueduct. And Lonny Powell just a short time ago from the FTBOA. Plenty more to come in Hour 3. It begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. 3 races you can watch and wager on with TwinSpires this afternoon. You got Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History, remembering rags to riches. And then Dale and Tim with I Ask, They Answer. All of that coming up in the third hour of the show. Stay with me. If your local station is leaving us, continue listening on ESPN 680 in Louisville, worldwide on our website, and nationwide on SiriusXM satellite radio. Hour 3 coming up next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Private Zone challenged here by Matru and Mashawish. Mashawish on the outside and Matru. Those two are right together. Totalist is putting in a big late run, and Red Vine is splitting horses. The 4 of them come down to the line. Look like Totalist got there. Totalist with a big late run to win the Cigar Mile. And they're stacked across with Lewis Bay out in the middle of the track. Lewis Bay way wide, but now in front. Then it's Thrilled, followed by Disco Rose and Lost Raven and Floridora. They pass the 16th pole, and Lewis Bay has the lead as they come for the finish in the Demoiselle.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Promises fulfilled, taken on by Engage. 7 trumpets is down on the inside. Firenze Fire is closing in, and so too still having fun on the far outside. But Promises Fulfilled is still there close to home. Promises Fulfilled is going to win the Alan Jerkins by a length and a half.
And here is Catholic Boy now to take over the lead. Catholic Boy in front as they pass the 3/16 pole. Catholic Boy with a 3-length lead. Then Avery Island and Vouch and Tap Rap Strike at Alcatab. But it's Catholic Boy, and he may have grown up some today. Catholic Boy wins the Remsen under Manny Franco.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back, Hour 3 of the Equine Forum, barreling toward the finish line on this Saturday morning, the 6th day of December, 2025. Only a few more shows left here this year before we segue into 2026, and going to be talking a lot about what the potential Kentucky Derby picture looks like in the coming weeks, and that includes the Kentucky Oaks picture too. Let's not forget about the ladies. We will do that in the coming weeks, but this morning we have covered a lot of ground, including that conversation just a short time ago with Lonny Powell, the CEO of the FTBOA, rebuking, if you will, what Damon Thayer said on this program a couple of weeks ago. They sent out that press release. Hopefully now everybody is rowing in the same direction and working toward that same goal of defeating decoupling, if indeed that should be something that happens here in 2026. You heard Lonny say it's not official yet that is going to happen, but I think everybody now aware on the offensive, and that's very good for the state of the industry in the Sunshine State. Okay, 2 hours in the books, 1 to go. The third hour of the show always kicks off with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Vance Hanson will do the honors for you here this morning. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History comes your way at 10:20. That's a really cool story about rags to riches who passed away just a couple of weeks ago. We'll get a chance to remember rags to riches here this morning with Kurt Stroll Through Racing History. And I Ask the Answer with Dale Romans, with Tim Wilkin. That comes up at 10:30 Eastern. But without further ado, we say hello to our friend Vance Hanson in the TwinSpires Triple Play. Vance, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Glad to be with you again.
Yeah, I'm pumped up here this morning to talk about racing at Gulfstream. A lot of people consider Gulfstream, Santa Anita, Oaklawn to be the key winter homes of racing, so Gulfstream's going to be a good one. And then Aqueduct, too. Big day at Aqueduct. You got the Cigar Mile, you've got the Remsen. Should be a really good day up there.
Yeah, absolutely. They used to run those races over the Thanksgiving weekend, but now they put them in early December and kind of have a calendar to themselves as far as major races this weekend, and they've all turned up pretty good races.
Yeah, they have. We'll see if the Remsen can produce. It will produce a contender for the Kentucky Derby, but a legitimate contender is another story. We'll see how that unfolds. But we are going to talk about that race as part of the 3 races you have selected for the Triple Play this morning. Gulfstream 1 is where we will start, and then we'll go to the 9th at Aqueduct, the Remsen, and then we'll go to the 7th at Gulfstream to wind it down. The first at Gulfstream Park is a 1-mile turf event, maiden special weight, purse of $70,000, and as I mentioned, 1 mile on the lawn. How'd you see it?
Yeah, this is an interesting race. A lot of obviously lightly raced 2-year-olds here, some who have started, some who haven't. Was batting around a couple of horses, and I've kind of landed on a promising first-time starter, Mo Ladies, for trainer Brian Lynch. And Lynch has started off the championship meet quite well, winning with 3 of his first 4 starters. So we got a hot barn going for Mo Ladies. He's by Uncle Mo, the late Uncle Mo, who was a pretty good first-time debut sire, not only overall but also on the grass. And I do like this Colts work pattern so far, and a couple of works have stood out to me on November 7th at Palmetto's, a nice half-mile breeze from the gate, and then most recently trying the grass at Palmetto's, blitzed 5 furlongs and 59 and change. So it looks like this first-time starter's got a little bit of speed, and he's had 1 half sibling so far race, and that it was a filly, and she wound up being a stakes winner, sprinting on the dirt. Although 0 for 3 on the grass, all of her losses were in stakes competition. So I won't hold that pedigree against her, but just to show that the mare has been throwing some quality horses so far. So Mo Ladies, a potential live first-time starter at 6-1 here.
Vance, I'm glad that you chose this race to kick things off with the Triple Play this week, and I'm glad that you picked Mo Ladies, this first-time starter, because last week here on the Equine Forum, we spent the entire show talking about various handicapping angles and ways to approach betting, ways to approach handicapping. And here is a perfect example of some of the things that were covered last week. You have a first-time starter racing on the grass. You talked about the pedigree. You talked about the trainer stats, and then you talked about the workouts. My question to you is, where do people find information on sire stats and first-time starters and trainers? And you can see the workouts, but where do you find all the other information?
Well, for me, I'm taking a look at our Brisnet past performances. I mean, they show a lot of sire stats with first-time starters on the grass. We have that. And then for pedigree perspectives, our Brisnet reports that I look at our 750 pedigree pages, our cumulative race records on Brisnet. I consult those on a daily basis when handicapping. So those are the 2 places I definitely look for as far as pedigree information. And then, of course, we also have our trainer and jockey stats available in our past performances as well.
You think announcer Pete Aiello is going to go with Versailles Road or Versailles Road for number 9?
Well, if he's familiar enough with Central Kentucky, he should say it properly and say Versailles.
All right, that's race 1 at Gulfstream. Vance going to kick it off with number 6, Mo Ladies. 6-1, too. Great value. We'll see if he sticks at that price, the son of Uncle Mo. All right, race 9 at Aqueduct is the second leg you've chosen. That is the Grade 2 Remsen for the 2-year-old boys. It's 1 1/8 miles on the main track, purse of $250K. Intriguing race to me. I think this is a pretty well-balanced group, Vance. What do you think?
I totally agree with you. And for the last week or 2 on Brisnet and TwinSpires, I've been talking up a horse called Paladin. And for those who like to have gun will travel back in the day, we know where that name came from. But Paladin He has a profile very similar to Sierra Leone. Same owner trainer, Coolmore and Chad Brown. He's by gun runner. He's debuted at Aqueduct with a win, albeit in Paladin's case via DQ, and now he's being thrown into the Remsen, a race that Sierra Leone just barely lost to Dornoch a few years ago. So Paladin debuted over a mile at Aqueduct, showed a lot more speed than Sierra Leone ever did in his debut, and very good effort. He wound up finishing second, going across the finish line second to returning rival Renegade, but he got elevated to first after Renegade was judged to have bumped him slightly near the finish. Probably an unjust disqualification in retrospect, but still Paladin, I thought, showed a great amount of upside and talent in that debut, especially running so close to the pace as he did. He's bred to stretch out immensely. A gun runner out of a Tapit mare, cost $1.9 million. His morning line in the Remsen here is not great, 3-1 early choice, but I think the Todd Pletcher horses in here like Courting and Renegade and Talkin' on the outside for Danny Gargan, I think they're going to be taking a lot of money as well. So I'm not totally convinced that Paladin will go off as the post-time favorite here. But so, anything in the neighborhood of 3-1 to 9-2, I think would be pretty attractive as this horse is stretching out today.
This is certainly a race that features some high-profile runners in terms of their sale price. You mentioned $1.9 million for Paladin. That came at Fasig-Tipton Saratoga. And then Courting, number 6, one of the Todd Pletcher horses you just touched on, $5 million is what they paid for this son of Curlin at the Keeneland September sale. What do you do with Courting? You said he's going to take some money. Obviously, you like Paladin a bit better here, but look down the road. Who do you think turns out to be the better, let's say, 3-year-old next year?
Oh, yeah, it could be either one of those. I mean, Courting, if memory serves, he is a half brother to Clairiere, or full brother, and she turned out to be a multiple Grade 1 winner as an older horse. So, immensely talented horse there, and he has had the benefit of 2 starts actually, and he, of course, will stretch out very nicely. So, just a lot of talent in this 12-horse field. There's obviously a few horses in here whose chances I don't fancy at all, but a very solid field, and this is going to be a great Derby prep, I think.
Do you give Balboa any chance in here?
He's only had the one race around 2 turns in the American Pharoah, and that was not a very good race. Overall, I mean, he does look like a one-turn specialist. I mean, he handled winning a 6.5 furlong maiden at Del Mar. He blitzed a minor field, a stakes field at Laurel last time in the mud, and now he's being asked to stretch out an additional 2.5 furlongs for this race. To me, he just has the look of more of a pace factor here, but sometimes speed will carry going a mile and an eighth here.
Yeah, 12-1 on the morning line for Balboa. He'll be a popular choice for Rocky fans, no doubt. We'll see if Brittany Russell can find a way to get him to the winner's circle under Ricardo Santana Jr., but Vance's top pick in the Remsen, number 2, Paladin, at odds of 3-1. Vance, back to Gulfstream we go. Your final leg is race number 7 in the Sunshine State. That is a 1-mile turf event, allowance optional claimer with a purse of $57K. How'd you see that one?
Yeah, this is a very tough entry-level allowance. A lot of these horses are running for tags too, having passed this allowance condition a long time ago. I kind of gravitated toward Junction Road on the outside for trainer Rowan Crichton, who's got off to a very good start at the championship meet. His first 6 starters, he has 2 wins and 2 seconds, and Junction Road's making his 3rd start off a layoff today. He'd been off from late March until mid-October, and he's had 2 comeback appearances on the synthetic surface. The first one was pretty good, finishing 2nd, and then didn't quite do as well next time out. He was favored in both, but I don't believe he's going to be anywhere near favored in this race. He's 10-1 on the morning line. The intriguing running line for me with him, if you look back, shortly before his long layoff, earlier in the year on February 1st. He ran a really good race at this exact level and going a mile and a 16th on the turf. Was up near close to the pace the whole way and then just wound up missing by a neck at odds of 11-1. And he did encounter some traffic and bumping and trouble in the stretch of that race too. So if he could run back to that last performance on the grass, I think he could beat what I think is a kind of a modest group for the class level.
All right, here's Vance's 3 picks in this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Remember, you can play those races and all the races you're going to bet this weekend with TwinSpires. Gulfstream Park Race 1, he'll take number 6, Mo Ladies, at 6-1 on the morning line. Aqueduct Race 9, the Remsen, he'll go with number 2, Paladin, at 3-1. And in Race 7 at Gulfstream, number 11, Junction Road, the top pick, 10-1. Great value there. 10-1 on the morning line for Junction Road. Vance, what's going on at TwinSpires and Brist this weekend?
Well, looking at a couple of offers on the TwinSpires site, if you opt into them, if you're playing Los Alamitos and or Woodbine this weekend, you can get a 15% profit boost on both tracks when you cash on them. I think it's win wagers only for Los Alamitos, but at Woodbine you can get a 15% payoff boost up to $25 on win, exacta, and trifecta, and some other wagers available. So take a look at those tracks as well as Gulfstream and Aqueduct, where the big racing is this weekend.
All right, there you have it. Vance Hanson with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Vance, appreciate it. This could be the final time that we get together here on the show in 2025. So if we don't talk before, a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you, and we'll talk in 2026, my friend.
Sounds great. Same to you, Mike. Thanks a lot.
All right, buddy. Vance Hanson here on HRRN. Again, all those races available for you to bet at TwinSpires.com or on the TwinSpires app. It's easy to do so in a wonderful way. And then take advantage of those special offers that Vance was just talking about as well. All right, coming up next, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history as we remember the late Rags to Riches in that segment, presented by Keeneland. And still to come, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans, with Tim Wilkin. They'll tackle some of the hottest topics in the sport today and some of your questions that you submitted for them here on the show. We'll do that next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. She was a high-priced filly with a misleading name. She won Grade 1 races in the same year for different trainers, and she beat the eventual Horse of the Year in becoming the first filly in over a century to win the Belmont Stakes. Her name was Rags to Riches. Foaled on February 27, 2004 at Lane's End Farm in Versailles, Kentucky, Rags to Riches was a chestnut filly by A.P. Indy out of Better Than Honor by Deputy Minister. She was destined to become part of a 3-generation sequence of Belmont Stakes winners, joining both her sire and grandsire, the latter being Seattle Slew, in that charmed category. Bred by Scara Glenn of Stanley and Ira Gumberg, Rags to Riches was sold by Lane's End as agent at the 2005 Keeneland September yearling sale. She commanded a price of $1.9 million, making her the 5th highest priced filly of the sale season. Purchased by Demi O'Byrne on behalf of Michael Tabor and Derek Smith, O'Byrne remembered her well as he reflected on the day he bought her. She had such an incredible physique, said O'Byrne, and it's pretty rare you come across a filly that has a pedigree like that at the sales. She was so good looking. She walked better than any AP Indy I had ever seen. She was just a fabulous filly, the best looking filly I ever saw. The only thing which did not seem to fit the picture was the filly's name, as there was nothing rags to riches about her. O'Byrne called it a rather unfortunate name, but with a shrug added, Mr. Tabor named her, and it was simply a name that he liked. Described as big, rangy, a good mover with a good mind, Rags to Riches would be commended into the hands of Todd Pletcher, who had just won back-to-back Eclipse Awards as the nation's leading trainer. Pletcher found Rags to Riches to have a great head, smart eye, very well balanced and athletic looking with a great walk. David Scanlon, who broke the filly at his training center in Ocala, Florida, agreed. We called her the runway model, said Scanlon, because she was all legs and absolutely gorgeous. But she had her own attitude. She was a dominant female. When you walked in the barn, she had her head sticking out, and when you went to pet her, she'd stomp her feet and start squealing. She had her own regimen, and you did things to fit her schedule. Rags to Riches would make her career debut at Churchill Downs as a 2-year-old on Saturday, June 10th, 2006, in a maiden special weight at 5.5 furlongs. She broke slowly, dropped to last, went 7 wide, and closed to finish 4th. Less than 3 hours later, her 3-year-old half-brother, Jazzle, would win the Belmont Stakes in New York. Rags to Riches was shipped to Saratoga at the start of summer, but then was routed back to Kentucky for a rest at Ashford Stud. The filly needed time to grow into herself, her ankles needed time to mature, and as Pletcher ultimately noted, given her pedigree, we wanted to be patient with her. After wintering at Hollywood Park with Pletcher assistant Michael McCarthy, Rags to Riches returned to the races in January of 2007 and broke her maiden at Santa Anita by 6 lengths under jockey Garrett Gomez. In February, she won the Grade 1 Las Virgenes as the favorite in her 3rd career start, defeating 7 stakes winners and 4 graded stakes winners. McCarthy was actually her trainer of record for those 2 victories, as Pletcher was serving a 45-day suspension. But by March, Pletcher was officially listed in the program again when Rags to Riches won the Grade 1 Santa Anita Oaks by 5.5 lengths as the 2-5 favorite. On May 4th, Rags to Riches went to the post at Churchill Downs for the Grade 1 Kentucky Oaks and won again, this time by 4.25 lengths on a muddy sealed track. The leggy chestnut with the eye-catching blaze was passing every test, and her connections believed she was now ready for the test of a champion. It was June 9th, 2007, and the race was the 139th running of the Belmont Stakes. The last time a filly had won the race was 1905. Tom Durkin gives us the call.
Rags to Riches is coming with a 4-wide sweep, and Tiago is in behind them. And at the top of the stretch, a filly is in front of the Belmont, but Curlin is right there with her. These two in a battle of the sexes in the Belmont Stakes. It is Curlin on the inside, Rags to Riches on the outside. A desperate finish. Rags to Riches and Curlin, they're coming down to the wire. It's going to be very close, and it's going to be a filly in the Belmont. Rags to Riches has beaten Curlin and 100 years of Belmont history. The first filly to win it in over a century.
Despite stumbling at the start, Rags to Riches recovered to win the Belmont, defeating eventual Horse of the Year Curlin in a memorable stretch battle. She became the 10th filly to win a Triple Crown race and just the 3rd to win the Belmont Stakes. She also became the first Classic winner for both Pletcher and jockey John Velasquez. Named American champion 3-year-old filly of 2007, Rags to Riches was retired from racing early the following year and would produce 14 foals in her career as a broodmare before her death in November of 2025 at the age of 21. At the time of her passing, Rags to Riches had not been accorded Hall of Fame status, despite appearing on the ballot for 9 consecutive years. Perhaps it is a reflection of the fact she made just 7 career starts. Maybe voters believe she needed a greater body of work. There can be no doubt, however, that Rags to Riches gave us one of the most incredible moments in the history of the game. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Kurt Becker with another fantastic story. If you did miss it, head over to our website after I finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Podbean or Apple Podcasts to hear all of our weekly shows. Coming up next, I welcome Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Send your mare to Maryland. After she foals here, breed to one of our stallions, and your 2025 foal is eligible to be a registered Maryland bred, giving you the opportunity to earn significant bonuses. And beginning with 2-year-olds of 2025, Maryland bred and Maryland sired horses will earn 40% higher breeder bonuses than out-of-state sired runners. Maryland, a foundation of greatness, a bright future ahead. Learn more at MarylandThoroughbred.com.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
There's a record crowd on there, 63,000. A lot of them here to see Silky Sullivan, who is not last now. He's moving up on the outside, fast as they come into the home stretch. It's a sensational sprint down to the wire. From 30 lengths behind, Silky Sullivan moves up and up to lead by more than 3 lengths going across. A headline performance by any standard.
Boy, was it ever. That was the 1958 Santa Anita Derby. Silky Sullivan, that late-running style, became legendary, so much so, his name is now common racing terminology when referring to a deep closer. This morning, we share our thoughts on some of the greatest late runners in the history of thoroughbred racing. Plus, who was right and who was wrong when the jockeys refused to ride after just one race at Aqueduct last Sunday? And does running in a December Derby prep race make you a long shot to win on the first Saturday in May? Those topics and much, much more are straight ahead on what promises to be another entertaining edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf rider Tim Wilkin, all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
Guys, we're going to begin with a couple of topics submitted by our listeners. We love when people send in their questions for you. And this first one comes from our friend Shane in North Carolina, who, by the way, wants you guys to know that your little pitch that you made a couple of weeks ago here on the show to his wife about taking him to the Kentucky Derby for his birthday worked. He is going to be in attendance at the 2026 Kentucky Derby. So he's thankful to both of you for that.
I hope the checks in the mail. Hope to meet him, show him around a little bit.
Oh, he can't wait. He said he's definitely taking you up on that offer, Dale.
That's good.
Yep. Well, here's what he wants to know this week. There are 4 Derby points races this month. You have the Remsen, the Low Sale Futurity, the Gun Runner, and the Springboard Mile. But only 4 Kentucky Derby winners since 2001 raced in the month of December. So Shane wants to know if trainers have shifted away from December campaigns, and if so, how come? And then at what point, Dale, does rest become risky? You know, turning a horse out for a longer period of time, starting their 3-year-old campaign later. At what point does that become a potential detriment to a horse?
Well, I don't think many of them turn out. I think that most of them stay in light training, back off, don't work quite as much, and definitely don't run. I don't think that's a new trend. I think that, that's the way history always played out. I didn't do the research, but I'm sure someone did.
But I don't think that the point system has a lot to do with making trainers have certain trends. You just want to try to have your horse ready, try to peak in May. And if they're starting running hard in December and making it all the way to May, especially if they had any type of campaign early in their 2-year-old year, it's a tough thing to do to keep one going the right direction for that long a period of time. And, as far as the points go, the only part that makes a big difference are the last 2 rounds, the 50 and 100-point races. Those are the moving races where people move up the ladder and drop down the ladder to get in. So I don't think it's a big shift in what people do because of points. I just think it's the way the calendar falls.
Tim, is there such a thing as giving a Derby hopeful too much time off before the start of their 3-year-old campaign, at least from your research perspective?
I don't think so. By looking at the 4 races you mentioned, Remsen, the Gun Runner, the Springboard Mile, Low Self Futurity. I think you mentioned those 4, didn't you?
Yep.
Of those 4, there's only, the Remsen has produced 6 Derby winners, but none since '94 when Thunder Gulch won the year before. Gun Runner has never had a Derby winner. Springboard Miles never had a Derby winner. The Low Self Futurities had one, Real Quiet, who won the '98 Derby. But there's been other horses in that Low Self race that exited that race and ended up winning the Derby, like Ferdinand, Elishiba, Thunder Gulch, Goddard del Sol, Giacomo. But you notice all those are a ways ago. It's something that doesn't happen now. It seems to me that, and again, I'm no trainer, but I've watched enough races to know that horsemen are waiting for the big point races. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile is worth 30 points to the winner, and after that, you got to wait till mid-February until the 50-point races start, and there's 7 of those, and then there's 7 of the 100-point races after that. So you don't want to beat up your horse in December and not have a horse that is going to be fresh and up and at 'em to run in the races that really, really are going to get you into the Kentucky Derby because of the point system. So I just don't think that December racing is not for the horses that are going to be pointed to the Triple Crown. It's
I'm pretty sure the horses in the Remsen, Timmy, are going to be pointed toward the Triple Crown, especially when you pay like $5 million for a horse like Courting.
Yeah, but is that the end all? I don't think so. I think that the Remsen's worth 20 points. No, it's not even worth that. It's worth 10. So that's not going to get you into the Kentucky Derby. I'm not going to question anything that Todd Pletcher does, but you look at the point system in the way that it's made up now. You want to be winning the 50-pointers and the 100-pointers to get into the Kentucky Derby. By winning the Remsen, you're not going to get into the Kentucky Derby.
It helps
necessarily.
It helps if you're a bubble horse, if you will, sitting in 22nd, 23rd. That 10 points could come in handy.
Yeah, but if you're as good as you might think you are, if you win a 50-point race, you're going to get it anyway.
Yep. There's 2 schools of thought on that one. Dale, if you have a horse that's a legitimate Derby hopeful, do you try to get him started this early, or do you give him a little more time?
Well, again, it depends on what they've done, earlier in their career. If they broke their maiden early and they've run in the stakes at Saratoga, they made it to Breeders' Cup, you want to lay off them a little bit. If they're kind of a late bloomer, they broke their maiden, you just want to get a little foundation in them going into the new year. That's why the Remsen and the race at Churchill, they all have these horses that mostly have started later in their 2-year-old year. And this is just a stepping stone forward.
Tim, let me ask you this question. Paladin was a $1.9 million yearling at Fasig-Tipton, Saratoga. Courting was a $5 million yearling at Keeneland, September. Which of those 2 would you rather have right now looking ahead to the Kentucky Derby?
Courting.
How come?
I just think he's been very impressive in the short body of work that he has. And I just think he's going to improve. And he's in a great barn, and I think maybe this guy could be the limit on him.
That's a quality group going in the Remsen this year. Maybe this is the year that streak, or next year would be the year that streak gets snapped for the Remsen, and we'll have a Kentucky Derby winner come out of that race. But Shane in North Carolina, appreciate the question, and so glad you're going to make it to the Kentucky Derby on the first Saturday in May 2026. Tom in St. Louis sends in the next topic, and guys, he says, is it just me, or does the mile chute at Churchill slightly angle toward the grandstand? If this is true, why is it laid out in that fashion? Dale, you're the expert. What do you think?
It doesn't angle towards the grandstand. It has like a bow in it. It turns to the left just a hair. And I think it's just done for real estate. I don't know. It's been there 150 years. So I'm not sure the reason why it was built that way, but I would assume it had something to do with just the layout of the racetrack. That's why I prefer being on the outside going a mile at Churchill, because I think you can get stuck down behind that bend a little bit if you're down on the inside and you don't brake clean, and you'll have to shuffle back or to try to ease over. But he's right. And I guess I was thinking about this question. The new cameras with the drones overhead must be people are seeing that they never saw it before. But it starts a little bit into the parking lot, comes out a little bit around, and straightens up down the backside.
Seems like an unfair advantage for the horses on the outside.
I like being outside, but I don't know. I haven't heard anybody really talk about it that much. But if you stand at where I've trained from in my little stand at the half-mile pole and look down there, you can definitely see that the end of it is bent around. It's slight. It's not a big deal, but there's a little bit of a turn there.
Yeah, interesting question there, Tom. He has a second part to his question, too. He wants to know, guys, for outfits that know they're going to be coming back to Churchill, and Tim, I guess it would be the same for Saratoga, do they leave some items at those racetracks, or do they move everything to the track that they're going to be racing at next?
Well, I guess I should take that question. But, no, I leave – my office stays the same at Churchill Downs. My screens stay up. They're permanently fixed onto the walls. I leave all my plaques and everything up. So all we move back in are the horses, the hay, grain, straw, and the tack. But everything else I leave at Churchill. But, I mean, there's been a Romans and Barn 4 at Churchill Downs for over 60 years. So one of these years, I guess we'll clean it up.
Tim, do people at Saratoga take everything with them, or do they leave some things there?
Well, the Oklahoma closed last month, and it is tighter than the drum right now. Everything's gone. And I just want to let you know that when I leave Saratoga Press Box, I take all my stuff out of there. I don't leave a thing up there.
I would bet Todd's office and Chad's offices are all set up, doors locked, and they'll open up, go back to
the photos up. I bet you they leave the photos up on the wall and things like that. But I'm sure the computers are gone and things like that.
Yeah, but their desk, TVs, the pictures, all that stuff's probably left behind.
I'm sure they turn the cable off.
That's up to the racetrack. They run that. They supply us free cable, believe it or not.
They do. I did not know that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Since you guys brought up pictures, it led me to think about something. What is your most cherished piece of racing memorabilia that you own? Dale?
That's a good question. I got a lot of nice stuff. Well, of course, my Eclipse Award probably would be. That means a lot to me. My personal memorabilia. I mean, you got the Dubai World Cup whip. The gold whip is pretty cool. The Preakness Trophy, Travis trophies. All the trophies are. I got a dozen or so that I think are pretty special. But the Eclipse Awards, I think that's probably my most prestigious thing I have. I have a lot of memorabilia, old memorabilia. I like my Miles Park programs from the 1960s that were my father's. And I go through there and look at names of people that I haven't thought about. I did it about a week ago. I went through one of them, and I had about 5 of them. I was going through looking for old names like Leroy Talls and Early Fires, my father in there, just guys that raced at Miles Park with $1,100 purses and stuff. That kind of stuff I like, too. The old history of the day-to-day racing, even more so than the big races of the old days, I like to look at.
Well, I don't have an eclipse, but then again, I've never even entered anything for an eclipse. But I've got a whip from my.
You should have, my friend, with some of those pieces that you put together. You definitely should have.
Well, it's not about me, but I have a set of goggles from Edgar Prado. I have a whip from Mike Smith that he gave me, which was pretty cool. I have a lot of old programs. I have a 2015 Belmont Stakes program signed by Victor and Bob, which is pretty nice. And actually had two of them. One was for a silent auction, which went for a really nice price at in a place in Rochester, New York. And I kept the other one. And things like that I got boxes full of programs. I should go through them one day and just see what I actually have. But I got stuff that goes back into the 80s.
Yeah, I
got a couple other cool things. I got a couple of, like Walter Blum Sr. gave me a silver, almost like a pillbox trophy he got for winning a big stake in the 1950s. I think it's pretty cool. And I've got the jacket that Wayne Lucas gave me for Wayne Lucas Racing Stable jacket. I think is pretty cool to have, and just some stuff like that around the house.
Yeah, I have a picture of Wayne Lucas and I taken in his office at Saratoga. One day I was just in there, and my brother was with me, and Wayne says, you and I should get a picture. So we did, and I'm glad I did because now I have it. It's a cherished possession.
Yeah, I'll tell you one more thing I got. When Woody Stevens wrote his book, I guess I've been lucky. I had been working for him the year before, and he came to Ellis Park to sign books, and I drove down there to get one from him. And he gave me one, and he wrote a little something in there. I think I was 20 years old. And I took it home, and to this day, I've never opened the book because I didn't want to damage a page of it. That's one of the most special things I have. I mean, he wrote it to me a note and signed it, Woody Stevens, and good luck on a future career. I might have been 19 at the time. Woody Stevens, and I put it in a bookcase, and I've never opened it because I didn't want to take a chance of bending a page.
I got a book signed by Cornelius Vanderbilt Whitney. He wrote a book. He wrote a book called, I think it was called High Peaks, something like that. I was up at Katy Hill years ago when I first met them, and he said, "I'm going to sign a book for you." He just gave it to me, and I still got it. It's pretty cool.
You guys know how big of a fan.
That's an interesting question. That got me thinking about stuff. I'm going to go home and look through some stuff.
Yeah. There's so much memorabilia I'm sure that all of us have stored away that we haven't looked at.
Mike, you got to got something.
Yeah, I do. I remember, you guys know how big of a fan of Holy Bull that I am, my all-time favorite horse. And Darley, where he stood stud, and they knew how big of a fan I was. So when he passed away, they took lockets from his tail, lockets of hair, and they sent me one of those. It was a complete surprise. I had no idea they were doing it, but Dan Pride and the team, nice enough to send me that. That's right there with my Holy Bull halter in my collection, and that's always going to be really special to me.
Very nice.
Yeah, great stuff. That is a good question. I'm glad I brought that up because there's so many wonderful things. And by the way, we'll encourage our listeners, if you have a piece of racing memorabilia that you cherish, let us know what it is. You can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. You can post it on our social media pages. Matter of fact, we're going to do that. We're going to work that in so we get some listener-submitted responses. I'm sure all of us racing fans have something out there that we love and cherish and hold dear to our hearts throughout our time in racing, including our good friend Nick Zito. We all love Nick Zito. He's a cherished commodity, and he brings us this week's edition of Right or Wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
Classic Nicky. All right, guys, after the first race at Aqueduct last Sunday, jockeys refused to ride the remainder of the card, a decision that stemmed from a dispute with NYRA management regarding a one-day fill-in for Assistant Clerk of Scales Brian Pochman. Trainer Danny Gargan told the Blood Horse he was frustrated, quote-unquote, by the loss of racing due to what he called little kid stuff. And that's not a knock on jockeys. That's his words. Guys, can you shed some light on exactly what led to this move, and were the jockeys right or wrong in their position?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right?
Timmy?
I think they were wrong. When the thing came out, I thought, man, why are they canceling it? I thought it must have been something weather related. I mean, because that makes sense. It's weather related, but the weather wasn't bad on Sunday, and it turns out because they were after the first race, Kendrick Carmouche was supported by the fellow riders, and they complained about the use of a fill-in for Brian's job, and then they had other unrelated issues, which I was head scratching on these that they were steamed a little about not being able to have family and friends from having access to the jockey's room. And that's been a restricted area, according to the New York State Gaming Commission, for forever. I mean, I was surprised at that, because I just don't, it's not like the jockey's room is a lounge for families to come in and hang out. You don't see that in any other professional sports locker room. Maybe after games, they come in and stuff like that, but not during the competition. That just doesn't happen. But I just think that because this is a game that's fueled by betting, and you have owners that have horses that were pointing to these races, trainers that were preparing them, and that all went by the boards. I just think it was not a good look for the sport to have that. They should have done the meeting after the day's races the next day. You don't interrupt the races for this kind of thing. I just think they were wrong on this one.
Well, I'll give you an update, too, guys. It was reported yesterday that Brian Pochman, the assistant clerk of scales, who I just mentioned, resigned that position, but he is going to remain a clocker at NYRA. Right. And jockeys apparently refusing to ride last Sunday in protest of changes in duties of the clerk of scales and the assistant clerk of scales. NYRA wanted them to write jockey weights in a program in addition to recording them electronically on a scale, is what DRF was reporting. Pochman was concerned that the protocols could result in additional mistakes, according to the report. So there's an update for you on the whole situation, too.
It was 100% wrong. There's no way that you handle a grievance in that way. And it's not just, there's $600,000 worth of purses on the line. There was a lot of money to keep these horses operating. You train them for specific races. Now these horses might not get in for another month. There's bills that go along with it. And not even to mention the grooms that, you have to ship from Belmont to Aqueduct. That's a long day for anybody. To get on the vans in the cold, go over to Aqueduct to run their horse, grooms, hot walkers, everyone that tends to the horses, and spend a day over there for the jockeys to walk out because of their grievances is ridiculous. They're all my friends, but that's not the way you handle it. There's a lot of ways to handle issues and grievances and problems that you have, and that's not one of them. You heard a lot of people that weren't involved in what your problems were, and that's just wrong.
And not to mention the horse players too, right, Dale?
Yeah. The horse players too. The horse players, everybody that supports it. If you don't want to come in, you pick a day and you tell them I'm not coming. Don't involve everybody, or you sit down and you argue. If you want to go on strike, go on strike. You involve that many people in your grievance that you could have sat down and worked something out.
All right, we're going to bring Nick Zito back for that segment next week here on I Ask, They Answer. That is right or wrong. We do have another topic to get to before we wind things down. But, guys, before I bring up a conversation about our favorite closers in the history of thoroughbred racing, got a note late last night, from my friend Phil in Lexington, who really enjoyed last weekend's program where I focus pretty much all on handicapping on this show, and that's something I don't typically do, but for the Thanksgiving holiday, we wanted to put something special together, so we did, and he said, man, I wish you could have asked Dale and Tim how they handicap. And I know, Dale, you're not a huge fan of discussing handicapping on the radio, but you must do some kind of handicapping when you enter horses into a race, don't you?
I do. And my biggest form of handicapping is knowing the horses and who's run against who and how competitive and how tough the races were. That's what I base most of my stuff on. I'm not a big numbers guy. I know if you take 5, it's all the language you speak. If you like Ragusan, you like the Browns, you like Equibase numbers, whatever numbers you like, that's a fine way to handicap. But I would prefer who's run against who. I think class means more than anything when you go to handicapping a group of horses put together. You can look at those 4 or 5 different types of number systems, and they'll be so different. I don't understand all that, how it works, but I like knowing who they've run against, what the horses they've competed with have done afterwards or had done before, how tough the races are that they're coming out of, if they're dropping up and down. You know, one thing I've noticed from handicappers, they don't pay close enough attention to are conditions of races and the conditions of races that horses have come out of. And to me, that's huge. You should, before you handicap anything, you need to read the top part that has all the conditions. And for a big-time handicapper, they say, oh, everybody does that. Well, they really don't. A lot of people don't. And you need to read all the conditions and compare the conditions they're running in today to the conditions they've been running in.
Great advice. Tim?
Well, we could spend a half hour just talking about this. You know, just briefly though, I'm big on workouts. I'm big on jockeys, jockey trainer combinations, major jockey changes. Again, you know, like Dale said, you look at the class with what the horse is running against, who he's ran against, and who he's going to run against now. And you know, it's not an exact science. I mean, everybody has their own way of doing things, but I really take a lot of stock in workouts, and I make a point to watch the horses that I like work in the mornings because I'm out in the backstretch every day. So I would say that to start off with, and we could talk about it again in another show, but I know that we're not on for 2 hours today.
No, and some people are thankful for that. Some people wish they could get more of Dale and Tim here on I Ask the Answer on Saturday morning. So maybe we should do a 2-hour program one time. We'll talk about that. But I want to talk about a horse by the name of Silky Sullivan next, because when you handicapped him, the one thing you were certain of, he was not going to be on the lead. Tomorrow marks the 68-year anniversary of Silky Sullivan as a 2-year-old winning the 1-mile Golden Gate Futurity after making up 27 lengths in that race. And that occurred on December 7th, 1957. His running style was so unique, it has led to a winning performance by a deep closer being known as a Silky Sullivan-like performance. So what are some of your favorite closers of all time, guys? And what are some of your favorite racing terms that kind of like Silky Sullivan-like move? What are some of your favorite racing terms? We'll go 2 directions with this one. Tim, you want it first?
Well, as far as closers go, I didn't see this horse per se, but I read enough about him. Forego, the great Forego, a 3-time Horse of the Year. He was one race that sticks out that I've read about often was his 1976 Marlboro Cup when he was 10 lengths off at the top of the stretch, and he was carrying 137 pounds, and he came flying at the end. He was a horse that did that often. He carried 130 pounds 24 times during his career and won 13 of them. He was always seemed to be coming from out of it. Another horse that I was pretty fond of was Victory Gallop, who won the 1998 Belmont, squashing the Triple Crown attempt of Real Quiet. I mean, he was next to last and came flying to just beat Real Quiet in the Belmont. And he rallied from 15th and last in the Derby to just miss beating Real Quiet in the Run for the Roses that year. And another one I'm going to throw out is Personal Ensign. I mean, everyone talked about her when 13 up and 13 wins. But that last race of hers in the Breeders' Cup Distaff on that awful day weather-wise at Churchill Downs in '88, she was trailing winning colors by 4 lengths coming into the final furlong. And boy, did she just get up and just win that race and show her guts. And, I remember Shug McGay was saying that he thought she was beat, but she just showed her class and just came from out of it to win. So I'll give you those 3.
I'll give you a couple. The most recent time, I think the best closer we've seen is Zenyatta. I mean, for her to pass horses every time that she ran the way she did and not get in traffic trouble and win as many races as she did was pretty phenomenal. Deep closers are horses usually that hit the board a lot, and then they'll win every once in a while when the pace scenario sets up right for them. But she just won every time. It didn't matter what the pace was in front of her. It didn't matter how many horses she had to go around. And then you got to remember to mind that Bird Derby. That was pretty impressive, too. I think he passed every horse but one, getting through on the inside and came running to win the Derby. But they're exciting horses to watch run. I had a 2-year-old win this week that was 15 lengths out of it at the half-mile pole and won. It was pretty exciting. My dad had one that I can't remember his name. It was Summit something back in the early 80s that we used to love to watch run. He'd get 30 lengths out of it. And the announcer one time the announcer called him with a good view of the field. And he would come rolling home. Even though he's a cheap horse, he was always fun to watch. Those horses are exciting, especially if you're a participating one. But like I said, most of them hit the board a lot, but don't win a whole lot.
Yeah, one of the first horses that I ever fell in love with was the Nick Zito trained Strike the Gold, who would come from far back and pick off horses one by one. And then Concern, I remember when he won the Breeders' Cup Classic, it was Tom Durkin with his famous call, Concern from out of the clouds. And that's another racing term that we hear quite often, right, guys? Out of the clouds for a horse that comes from out of nowhere to win a race.
Yeah. And there was cause for concern in the Travers.
Yeah, another legendary Tom Durkin call, maybe one of the greatest.
Yeah.
So many good ones. We've got to wrap it up. I'll give you one racing term, though, that came to mind as I was asking you about some racing terminology, and we'll circle back to this on a later show. But on the bill daily, you don't hear that used very often anymore, but that's when you refer to a horse taking them to the front at the start and kind of remaining there all the way to the finish, going wire to wire. On the bill daily. You don't hear about that very often, but I thought that was kind of a cool term that was thrown around quite often back in the day. Okay.
That's the first time I ever heard it.
Seriously? Really?
Yeah.
No, I've heard it my whole life, and I don't know where it comes from. That'd be interesting research.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Dale, I think it comes from he was referred to Father Bill Daly. He was a famous old-time horseman, and he had a hand in developing a lot of really good jockeys, if I recall. Something along those lines, but I'll put a little more research into it.
Yeah, bridge jump. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Okay, final point of the week. Time to wrap up the show. Tim Wilkin, kick it off.
Well, today's the last time we're going to see some iconic races at Old Aqueduct. The Remsen, Cigar Mile, the Demonzel. Because Aqueduct's going away when Belmont opens, and this is going to be the last time for these iconic races. They're not going to go away. They're going to be raced at Belmont. But they've had some really cool editions of those races at Aqueduct. I mean, the field of this year's Cigar Mile isn't stellar, but there's been races in the past that have really sparked the imagination of horse players and fans alike. And I'll miss those races at Aqueduct.
Yeah, that is a good point. That is a historic weekend. But overall, my only point is going to be it's kind of boring racing in December. I'm ready to get January started pointing towards the Pegasus and get some exciting stuff going again. I'm kind of bored right now.
Well, Dale will have plenty on his plate going forward.
I'll send you a crossword puzzle.
Yeah, please do.
Guys, appreciate it. Enjoy the races this weekend, and good luck. We'll do it all over again next Saturday.
All right, Mike.
Guys, talk to you next week.
Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin. If you have a topic for them, email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. We'll get it worked into the program for you. I Ask the Answer is presented every week by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program in the College of Business. I'm back with the answer to this week's impossible trivia question next. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Forever Young's Breeders' Cup Classic Victory is on the cover of the Blood Horse here in December, and that is out now. You can become a subscriber for exclusive content for as little as $59 a year, or purchase a single issue at bloodhorse.com. Lee Delapina has the answer to this week's Impossible Trivia question. Lee?
Thanks, Mike. What noted racetrack architect was behind the redesign of Aqueduct in 1959? That was Arthur Froelich, who also had a hand in designing Hollywood Park, Keeneland, and Belmont Park, just to name a few.
Back with another Impossible Trivia question next Saturday morning here on the Equine Forum. My thanks to all of our guests for making this show possible, to all of you for tuning in. Kurt Becker for his Stroll Through Racing History, Dale and Tim in the previous segment, Vance Hanson for that TwinSpires triple play, Lonny Powell with that extensive conversation in hour number 2 here this morning. If you missed any portion of the show, check out the podcast on our website and your favorite podcast platform. My thanks to my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studios, Chauncey for handling all of our social media again this morning. I'm Mike Penna. Again, thanks for listening, and let's do this again. Go Steelers.